Before you go, I have this before you go on the Hajj step by step for a reason. Because your Hajj preparation starts, it shouldn't have started now actually, it should have started a while back, but your Hajj preparation really starts spiritually. It's orienting yourself mentally, spiritually, emotionally, even physically. If you don't exercise, if you're not physically, walking or used to the idea of walking for a few miles a day, it's going to be very, very tough on you. The weather is not very pleasant. We're getting into the hottest months. It was over 100 degrees every single day last year. So it's hot. There's a lot of walking. So you physically orient yourself if you can, inshallah ta'ala. Emotionally, just kind of, prepare yourself. Create that longing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and that longing for Hajj. Spiritually, you make sure that you're doing the things that you need to be doing before you go there. Don't go to Hajj and say, I'm going to start praying on time when I go to Hajj. Or I'm going to start, trying to develop khushu' when I go to Hajj. Right? You start orienting yourself spiritually towards the Hajj from now, inshallah ta'ala, to where you're doing away with the sins that stand between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from now. And you try to, bring good habits into your life from now. Habits that you plan to keep, inshallah ta'ala, after Hajj. You start from now. So it's a big mistake that people make where they wait for the magic moment in Hajj. The magic moment might not come. Okay? The moment is, Hajj is a lot of hustle and bustle. It's very fast. It's very exhausting. It's not a ibadah of khushu'. What that means is Hajj is not a ibadah of, sitting quietly and enjoying your silence and your humility. Hajj is just traffic and it's fast paced. And the ibadah, the worship of Hajj is in the struggle, is in getting dirty and tired and having swollen feet, right? And sweating. That's the ibadah of Hajj, okay? And that's why the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks towards His servants on the day of Arafah when they're covered in dirt and they're tired and they're exhausted, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks at them and He forgives them. Because Allah seeing you that exhausted and tired and going through what you're going through, sleepless and so on and so forth, for His sake, that is the ultimate ibadah in that situation, because it's like you're toiling to make up for the years of sin that you brought with you to Hajj. So you start orienting yourself spiritually, inshallah ta'ala, towards Hajj from now. Before you go, I have 4 items here. Number 1, renew your intentions. A lot of people go to Hajj because it's an obligation, and that's the number 1 intention why we go. But renewing your intention here, what I mean by that is if you're already getting ideas of, telling people about the Hajj experience, if you're already, getting this idea of having your trophy, and being called Hajji from now on, and, making your Facebook name Hajji, and then, putting that on your business cards from now on, Hajji, and all that kind of stuff. Or if you want to go like really hardcore like they do overseas, putting, a tent in front of your house and making sure people come and visit you to congratulate you, all right? All of that is going to be worthless and fruitless. And a lot of times our intentions become corrupt without us paying attention. So it's not necessarily something as obvious as that, but it starts to creep up inside of us, like, people are going to say, mashallah, people are going to, especially if you're particularly young, you're doing Hajj at a young age, people try to, wait their entire lives to do this. Sometimes those little things creep up into your Hajj experience and they corrupt your intentions without you paying attention. So it's important to orient yourself in that way as well, inshallah ta'ala, from the very beginning. Renew your intention. Your number 1 intention is to be forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're going there to be forgiven. Alright? What that means is, if I'm going there to be forgiven, then I am going to accept anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throws my way. Because I deserve it. Because I've sinned so much. You understand? Because you take every moment of exhaustion, everything that comes at you, as a moment of expiation, as a moment of kafara, a moment of forgiving your sins, inshallah ta'ala. So you go there with this mentality that whatever Allah throws at me, I'm going to take it. Because the prize is pretty great here. This is my chance to be forgiven for every single sin I've committed in my life, the major ones and the minor ones. And for just a few days. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hung me upside down and had someone beat me with a baseball bat for 2 weeks, and that meant being forgiven for all of my sins in the past, at least for me it's worth it. I think it's pretty much worth it for all of us, rather than facing the consequences of those sins in the hereafter. We also remind ourselves, subhanAllah, that one of the Salaf, he said, how many bodies do tawaf around the Kaaba without hearts, and how many hearts do tawaf around the Kaaba without bodies? How many bodies do tawaf around the Kaaba without hearts? And how many hearts do tawaf around the Kaaba without bodies? There are people that don't get to go to Hajj. They make that sincere intention to be forgiven from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they really, really mean it when they say, if Allah gives me the means, I will do Hajj. And they get the reward of Hajj. Whereas some people go to Hajj, spend their money, actually physically do tawaf, but they don't get the reward of Hajj. Okay? So that's why you turn your heart towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you get yourself in that zone. Number 2, meet friends and family and ask for forgiveness. That's one of the ways that you prepare yourself. You don't want a grudge to be the reason why all of your ibadah goes to waste. The Prophet ﷺ said that when two people are quarreling with one another, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees their deeds every Monday and Thursday. Our deeds are presented to Him. The deeds are presented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every Monday and Thursday, the Prophet ﷺ says, except for two people that are quarreling, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَنظِرُوا هَذَيْنِ حَتَّى يَصْطَلِحَا. Leave these two until they fix that which is between them. Meaning what? Allah doesn't even look at their deeds until they fix that which is between them. So if you have an issue with somebody, don't just put out a generic Facebook status. Don't just send out an email. If you know that someone has an issue with you, if you know that you've had a history with someone, call that person up and seek their forgiveness. Your parents, if you can, your spouses, your children, even sometimes, subhanallah, your brothers, your sisters, your siblings, your friends. Just make sure that no one's holding anything in their heart against you. That type of debt is a different type of debt. Paying off our debts, which is number 3. Paying off your debts financially is one thing, and then paying off your debts that involve slander and that involve the reputation of other people and so on and so forth, that's another thing altogether. And that's also very important. Okay? So this all falls under the category of clearing yourself before you go. Now, if you have revolving debts, all right, you have a mortgage, you have some sort of payment that's being done monthly, and your Hajj is not going to affect that payment, then it's fine, inshallah ta'ala. You don't have to go and complete it, as long as it's not affecting your repaying of that debt. So number 3 is pay your debts. Number 4 is prepare your will. The Prophet ﷺ said a believer should not sleep for 3 nights without having a will. So actually preparing a will is not something you just do for Hajj, but it's something you especially do for Hajj. And subhanAllah, Abdullah ibn Mubarak rahimahullah, he says that when the people that used to leave for Hajj, the Salaf, they used to actually prepare their families as if they weren't coming back. There was this idea that going to Hajj there's this possibility that you won't return back to your family. So you prepare yourself emotionally for that. You get yourself in that mindset that I might be going there and I might not come back, as you would do every single day, but especially when you're going for Hajj. Okay? So those are 4 things that before you go that you kind of prepare yourself with, spiritually, mentally, inshallah ta'ala, as much as you can, physically, as much as you can. Now, then I have a list of just some general preparation tips, okay? One of them, and I'm not a doctor, so consult with a doctor, but there are 2 things that you're going to hear about a lot over there, amoxicillin or amoxicillin and zithromycin. You're going to keep on hearing those. Why? Because at some point, almost everyone is going to be on a prescription of zithromycin at some point, right? The pharmacies, you walk into a pharmacy and you look at them, and if you tell them you have diarrhea, they're still going to give you Zithromax, because they're just used to everybody coming in and asking for Zithromax or zithromycin and things of that sort. Generally speaking, what ends up happening is a lot of people exhaust themselves before the Hajj even starts. They overexert themselves. They get really, really, really sick, right? So when Hajj comes around, they're in bed and they have, obviously it's all in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but part of it is us, of course, taking our measures, making sure that we don't put ourselves in that situation, right? Taking precautions. So a lot of people get really, really, really sick before Hajj even starts. So it's good to prepare yourself, inshallah, build your immune system as much as you can, be extra germophobic if you can while you're there before you actually get to the Hajj part. And subhanAllah, if you're going to start a course of antibiotics, usually a lot of times, at least the doctors that have been with me for the last several years, they'll say, to start it, on the 6th or the 7th of the Hijjah, before the Hajj actually starts. So that's something, inshallah ta'ala, while you're there, we'll go over as well. And then you have just the over-the-counter medication, having chloroseptic spray or something for the throat, the things for the cold, and so on and so forth. You're most likely going to have a sore throat and have a cold at some point. Vitamin C, So a lot of times people forget that, but taking vitamin C every day, just building your immune system overall. For the brothers in particular, Vaseline. You need to have Vaseline. Why? Because when you wear ihram, if you don't have Vaseline, then it's going to be a really, really, really bad experience for you. So brothers in particular, inshallah ta'ala, you bring Vaseline to apply to the inner thighs while you're there, inshallah ta'ala. Otherwise, you're going to be very, very, very uncomfortable. And people tend not to loan that stuff when they're in Hajj, so they'll give you vitamin C, they won't give you Vaseline, so bring it with you, inshallah ta'ala. Light material thobes. A lot of times, even if you're not accustomed to wearing a thobe, it's very comfortable while you're there to have a light material thobe, not the really thick ones, but just something you can throw on and throw off, especially in Mina. When you're in Mina, in particular, when you're leaving the tent and those types of things, when you're not in ihram, you'll be very uncomfortable if you don't have that. So just buying some very light material thobes, those summer thobes, inshallah ta'ala, that you can just throw on and off while you're there, or shalwar qamis or something of that sort, inshallah ta'ala, that's also very important. Slippers. Don't bring your really nice shoes or sandals to Hajj, because there's a very, very high possibility that you're going to lose your sandals or your slippers or your shoes when you're in Hajj. So if you have a pair of heels that you really like, don't bring them. If you have a pair of sandals or shoes that you like, don't bring them. Bring shoes that you would have absolutely no issue losing, and walking out of the masjid and finding out that your shoes are completely gone. So bring something really, really, really cheap with you, inshallah ta'ala, that you have no issue getting lost, and so on and so forth, because more than likely you're going to lose one pair of slippers, one pair of shoes while you're there. You can buy, now a lot of these things that I'm going over, by the way, you can buy in Medina. If you have a Medina First package, it's very easy to get most of the stuff in Medina. There are pharmacies everywhere, there are clothing stores everywhere, they sell the slippers for 10 riyals, those white plastic slippers, they're everywhere. So a lot of the stuff you can get from Medina, inshallah ta'ala, before you actually go there. A lot of times I get asked what kind of slippers are allowed. For the brothers in particular, the main rule that you want to remember is slippers that don't close the ankle, that don't cover the ankle. So the idea is to avoid shoes altogether. So even, there's some shoes or some slippers, sandals that grab onto the back of the heel. Don't bring those either. Something that completely leaves the heel exposed. Okay? Also, some of the ulama, they said to leave the toes exposed. And there's an opinion to leave the top of the foot exposed, but that's Allah Ta'ala alam. It's not my opinion. It's not the strongest opinion. So any slipper that you wear, any sandal that you wear, inshallah ta'ala, as long as it doesn't fully enclose from the front and from the back, then it's fine, inshallah ta'ala. So Crocs would be okay, but I don't know how comfortable they'd be. Okay, but the idea is, again, something that doesn't completely cover or enclose your foot, inshallah ta'ala, and resemble a shoe in any way whatsoever. Now, one thing as well, keep your ihram towels. This is especially people that are going to Mecca first. Keep your ihram towels in your carry-on. Why? Because a lot of people that go to Jeddah first end up losing their ihram because your bags don't make it or something happens with them. So make sure you keep your ihram with you in your carry-on. If you're going to Medina first, ihram is very easy to find, inshallah ta'ala. When you go to a store over there, you're going to usually have, anywhere from 60 to 80 riyals per ihram. The 80 riyals is worth it. All right, when you see the premium ones, all right, it's actually worth it because the ones that are really light are not very thick material, and it can get, it can get kind of uncomfortable. So the premium ones are better, inshallah ta'ala. Those ones that go up to 80. Don't go pay 80 riyals for a really cheap ihram because that might happen. So just make sure you know what you're doing, inshallah ta'ala, when you go there. But Medina is the place to buy it if you're going there first, inshallah. There are some ihrams also that aren't Sharia compliant, but the bags say that they're Sharia compliant. Just because a bag or an ihram that's being sold in the marketplace says approved, all right, doesn't mean that it's actually approved. So you have these really comfortable ihrams now that are like shirts, all right, because they close all the way. You got ihrams that have the buttons on them, so you can just clip the buttons. That's a qamis, that's a shirt. It's prohibited. Okay, so you need to make sure that you get an ihram that's not innovative. It's just a white towel. Okay, and it's just an ihram that's not going to close in any special way. All right, Can you use safety pins to close your ihram? You can use safety pins, inshallah ta'ala, especially when you're doing the first few rounds of tawaf, for tawaf al-qudum, where you're going to have to leave your right shoulder exposed. So you can use safety pins to hold it, inshallah ta'ala, in place. Otherwise, you don't even really need to have safety pins, but it's something that you can have. Can you have an ihram belt? Yes, you can have an ihram belt. Can you wear a belt like any belt that you wear? The same belts that you wear on your pants, on your jeans, or whatever it is. Can you wear those belts on your ihram? Yes or no? Yes, you can wear any belt on your ihram, inshallah, because it doesn't resemble any type of cloth that's prohibited in Hajj or prohibited in ihram. So any type of belt is fine. The ihram belts are good because they have pockets, so you can put some of your belongings in there, inshallah ta'ala. Again, it's a worthwhile investment. Please don't think that you're really good and you don't need an ihram belt. You do need an ihram belt, inshallah ta'ala. You can buy that in Medina as well. One thing as well, not taking a lot of credit cards, not taking a lot of debit cards, not taking a lot of those possessions. Have one card, a little bit of cash, and that's all. Because that's also something that can happen over there, losing your wallet. That happens all the time. So just keep one card and some cash for emergencies. Don't go beyond that. Also, there will be a Hajj guide that will be given to you at the airport. If you have this guide, inshallah ta'ala, you really don't need that guide. So the guide that I sent to all of you that are in my group, and those of you that aren't in my group, inshallah ta'ala, we'll take your email address and we'll send it to you as well. But if you have that guide, then inshallah ta'ala, it's good enough. There are a lot of Hajj guides that are sold in the marketplaces over there. I don't recommend that. Why? Because you don't know who wrote that Hajj guide. Okay? And if you have a Hajj guide that has some really weird stuff in there, weird du'as and so on and so forth, and then your group leader is telling you do this, then you're going to get really confused because he would have studied according to that Hajj guide. Alright? There is a Hajj guide when you get to the airport that's given to you by the government. Okay, so they have a little Hajj guide there. They have English books, Arabic books, and so on and so forth. So that one's fine. It's not that detailed. It's a pretty simple guide, inshallah ta'ala. But generally speaking, make sure that you use an authentic Hajj guide and not just one that you find in the marketplace in Medina. Also, keeping unscented baby wipes and hand sanitizer. Have hand sanitizer with you all the time. Alright? Alhamdulillah, the last four years I've been to Hajj, I actually did not get sick until the very, very, very end of Hajj, like after Hajj was already over. Alright? And of course, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that continues, inshallah, this year as well. Alright, but the thing is that just always having that hand sanitizer, wiping your hands, making sure that you're keeping yourself clean, that's really, really important. You also have grocery bags, Ziploc bags, and toilet paper. If you're going to Medina first, you can buy that. Why? Because most of the bathrooms there don't have toilet paper, especially when you go to Mina. It will come in use for you to have toilet paper with you, inshallah ta'ala, but make sure that you do that before you get there. Alright, now we have the guide up on the screen, alhamdulillah. Alright, another thing as well, a yoga mat. Now the yoga mat, you can also buy in Medina. You can buy in Aziziyah. There is a store in Medina and Aziziyah and all over the place called Bin Dawood. Okay? I'd actually rather the lights on, inshallah, for the recording. So yeah, inshallah. So there's this store called Bin Dawood. Bin Dawood is everywhere. Alright? Bin Dawood has these little cheap yoga mats that you can take with you, inshallah ta'ala, to Muzdalifah. Most likely when you get to Muzdalifah, after you use that yoga mat, you're never going to use it again. So you're probably going to leave it there. And most people just leave their mat there and then people come and collect it after them, inshallah. So you can buy that from Bin Dawood over there. There are shoe bags. Those really come in handy. These little shoe bags, inshallah ta'ala. Those of you that are in... Where's Usman? Are you here? Do we have shoe bags? Inshallah. So if you're in my group, you're going to have a shoe bag anyway. But make sure your group is either giving you a shoe bag, inshallah, or buy one. You know those little bags that you can just wear on your shoulders? Those really come in handy for brothers and sisters. Why? Because then when you go to the Haram, especially in Mecca, you can just put your shoes in that bag instead of trying to find it on the rack after you put it on some rack. So you can hold it with you, you can keep your passport there, your phone there, and so on and so forth. It's permissible to wear while you're in Ihram, by the way. Okay, because it's not a cloth, it's not a shirt or anything like that. So brothers can wear it while they're in Ihram. And it really comes in handy. So check with your group to see if they're giving you a shoe bag. If they're not giving you a shoe bag, then just buy one, inshallah ta'ala. Buy a really cheap one that you can keep with you throughout the Hajj, inshallah ta'ala. Travel as light as possible. Okay? I go to Hajj with a carry-on. Alright? travel as light as possible. The heavier you travel to Hajj, the more you're going to regret it. Because you're going to have to move and unload and move around so much, okay, that it gets annoying. Bags get lost all the time, all right? So make sure that you travel as light as you can. If you can fix everything to where it's in one carry-on, inshallah ta'ala, that's the best thing that you could possibly do so that you don't have to check in any bags. Obviously, that's not reasonable for some people, i.e. sisters, okay? It's easier for us to do that, but try your best, inshallah, to travel as light as you can. Also, mashallah, now, subhanAllah, I have on the list Saudi SIM card. Some groups provide them, but it's more complicated now. Before, they used to actually be able to provide the SIM cards before you actually go to Hajj. Now the government has some really strict procedures to where you have to actually give them your passport, show them your visa before they'll actually give you a SIM card. Obviously, you've got those international plans, depending on who your carrier is. I know AT&T, you pay $30, you get unlimited text messages internationally. T-Mobile has an international plan, whatever it is. If you have something like that, it does come in use, inshallah ta'ala. And while you're there, obviously you can buy like a Saudi SIM card or something of that sort, inshallah, to keep yourself occupied over there to make sure that you can be connected. Number 15 is don't be a tourist and a photographer. Seriously, pictures are not going to benefit your Hajj at all. No selfies with the Kaaba, nor with the grave of the Prophet ﷺ, okay? It is really, really, really annoying, and it can really ruin your sincerity as well. It really can ruin your sincerity when you get to the Kaaba and the first thing you're thinking about is how to get a really awesome picture with the Kaaba. So go there with the intention of not taking pictures. That's just my advice to you. I've never taken any pictures in the Haram personally, and I find it kind of weird when you're passing by the grave of the Prophet ﷺ and everyone's just taking a bunch of pictures, right? So it gets really, really awkward. I remember one time there was this brother that was coaching his wife how to take a picture of him, and like he's like, all right, do this, and he's like, like, this is supposed to be an act of ikhlas. This is supposed to be an act of sincerity and humility and so on and so forth, but he's trying to get a really nice cover photo, where he's making dua and the Kaaba's in the background. Okay? Try not to take too many pictures, inshallah ta'ala, and don't try to document your trip in that way. Inshallah, it'll be saved in your heart, just like it was for the Salaf. As much as you can, try to avoid that, inshallah. Make copies of your passport. Why do I say make copies of your passport? Keep one at home, keep one with you, keep one with, in the United States, whatever it may be. Actually, keep one with someone, or scan it and have it on your computer. The most awkward thing in the world is when you get there and you give them your passport. You know what they do with your passport? They do this. Seriously. You get there, you hand them your passport, they just throw it. And they have these boxes, and sometimes, where did my passport end up last year? In the Turkish embassy, right? Your passport is taken away from you when you get there, and there's nothing that your group can do away with it. And good luck trying to reason with the brothers that are there and telling them to take care of with your passport. It's not Japan. They're not going to take it with two hands and assure you that it'll be okay. They're going to throw your passport and hope that it lands in the right box, okay? And then Uthman is going to go chase it for the whole week in Medina trying to find it, like he does every year. And alhamdulillah, eventually, they usually get found, okay? All right, but you are without your passport from the time that you get there to the time that you get to the airport when you're leaving. You don't have your passport with you. So it does benefit you to have a copy of your passport, okay? Have one with you and have it on a computer or something where it can be in your email address. So if you need to prove your identity for some reason, you have that, inshallah ta'ala, that's with you. Number 17, patience and a positive attitude. Things will not go 100% smooth in Hajj, no matter what package or group you are in. A lot of people go there, and let me tell you what you start doing. You start talking to people that are in other packages. Okay? All right? And everyone starts talking about why their group is bad and what the other group is doing that's better. So when people start interacting and things of that sort, they're like, well, their group is doing this and their group is doing that and so on and so forth. You are losing the barakah of your Hajj. Okay? Let your Hajj go on as proceeds. If afterwards you want to write a really nasty review and do whatever you want about your Hajj group, that's fine. But while you're there, buses will be late, things will go wrong, nothing is smooth. You have millions of people in this tiny region in a place that's very unorganized, that's inherently unorganized. You have to expect that nothing is going to go right, and as long as your Hajj is intact, then alhamdulillah. All right? You're going to get to hotel rooms sometimes. You're not going to be able to check in for hours and hours and hours. It's not America. You can't go up to the desk at 4 o'clock and be like, hey, it's 4 o'clock. Where's my room? The guy might, the guy might purposely delay you if you annoy him and check you in at 9 p.m. just because you did that. It's not America. You cannot go up and make demands over there. Things will proceed as they proceed. Go with the intention that nothing will go right, nothing will go smooth, and just accept it as it comes at you. And everyone, mashallah, is nodding their heads now. But people are screaming when they get there. All right? It is not the US over there. And subhanAllah, there are people that are there that don't have any rooms, that don't have any buses, that are walking the whole Hajj, sleeping in the street, and they're just happy to be there. They're saying alhamdulillah that they're there. So things will not go smooth. Go there with a positive attitude. Don't be the one to spoil the group. Why is that? Because in Hajj you become a family. And a lot of times you have this amazing group. And it's really hard to achieve. We've actually done it a few times. Alhamdulillah, I can think of a few times where we had 90 people all on the same page. And it was pretty amazing, right? But then one person starts and it spoils the entire bunch because that makes it easy for everyone else to start complaining as well. All right? The Prophet ﷺ says, وَإِنَّ سُوءَ الْخُلُقِ, that bad character, يُفْسِدُ الْعَمَلْ كَمَا يُفْسِدُ الْخَلْ الْعَسَلْ. Bad character spoils your good deeds the way that vinegar would spoil honey. All right? Don't spoil your own Hajj. Don't spoil your own group. Don't spoil it. Don't be that person. Be the one that has the positive attitude, inshallah ta'ala, and say, alhamdulillah, anytime anything happens to you, you are a guest of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You accept the accommodations of the host. You are going as a slave to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You take what the master gives you and you don't ask questions. Just go with it, inshallah ta'ala, over there. And things will go wrong. Expect that. Even if you paid $25,000 and you went on the super VIP Hajj and whatever those where they bring the Kaaba to your room and you just do tawaf around the Kaaba and you're chilling right next to the Jamarat and you've got a bed in Muzdalifah. I don't care what group you're in, things are going to go wrong. All right? Expect that, inshallah ta'ala. So whether you're doing what we call Hajj Dala', all right, the spoiled Hajj, or you're doing the Hajj where people get tired, expect it. Hajj means you're going to get exhausted. Hajj means things will come at you that are unexpected. I can't stress that enough. Number 18, do not do what everybody else is doing at Hajj because a lot of it is wrong. You can't go to Hajj and be like, I'll just follow what everyone else is doing, because you've got people from all over the world that have all kinds of traditions, right? So for example, just when you're passing the black stone in Tawaf, you've got some people that are going, you've got some people that are, people are doing all kinds of things. All right, so don't just think, all right, if things are going wrong, it's like cheating off of the kid in math class, that looks smart. All right, don't assume that anyone else knows what they're doing. Make sure that you go prepared, inshallah ta'ala. Make sure that you follow your guide. When in doubt, go back to your guide, inshallah ta'ala. Do not look around and see, okay, if everyone else is doing something in a certain way, then I will do that as well. Next we have, let me enlarge this a little bit so you guys can see, inshallah. That's better, right? Okay. Some important definitions in Hajj. These are things that you're going to hear while you're in Hajj all the time. Number one, there is a rukun of Hajj. There is a pillar of Hajj. Okay? Rukun, pillar, means something that is obligatory, and if it's not done, the Hajj is invalid. Okay? MashaAllah, there was an ambassador, I'm not going to say which Muslim country it was, but someone very high up in some Muslim country last year. MashaAllah, he came to Arafah and he prayed Eid al-Adha in his own country. And it was like, how did you do that? Right? Well, Hajj is Arafah. No, Arafah is not the only pillar of Hajj. There are pillars of Hajj. If you don't do them, your Hajj is invalid. So you have to pay very close attention, inshallah ta'ala, to those pillars and make sure that you do them. You can't make up for those. You can't offer a sacrifice. Those pillars of Hajj have to be fulfilled. A wajib also means something that's obligatory. But if it's not done, then the Hajj will be valid and the person must offer a fidyah. The person must offer some form of compensation, which we're going to talk about, inshallah ta'ala. To give you guys an example, to relate it to your salah. If you miss the first tashahhud, the first sitting in salah, and you stand up for the third rak'ah, you don't have to go down to it because it's a wajib. Instead, you'll do the 2 sajdas at the end of your salah, sajdat as-sahw, right? But you can't miss the last tashahhud of your salah because that's a rukun. Okay, so if you stood up for a 5th rak'ah, you have to go down back to that tashahhud. Why? Because that's a rukun. The first tashahhud is a wajib. A wajib is something that can be made up by something else if you miss it. It's obligatory, so you don't miss it intentionally, but if you do, then there's a way to make up for it. Then there's a sunnah, and a sunnah in this regard means a desirable action, just something that's mustahab. If you do it, you're rewarded. If not, then you won't be punished. The hajj is valid. There's no need of fidya and all of that. All right. So, for example, going to Mina on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah is sunnah. If a person for some reason got late and they made it to Arafah on the 9th, and that was all that they caught, right? Their hajj started at Arafah. Their hajj is valid. They don't have to offer a sacrifice. The reason why I say this is when people get there, they just go sacrifice crazy. You kill a lot of sheep unnecessarily, all right? Why? Because like, oh man, I think I need to do a sacrifice. We missed this. I think I need to do a sacrifice. You know, Shaykh, I tripped over this. I think I need to do a sacrifice. I had an argument. I need to do a sacrifice. I need to do a sacrifice. We missed this salah. I need to do a sacrifice. People just go sacrifice crazy because there's an app for it now. All right, you can actually do your sacrifices through the phone. All right, so just go and click it, and you're done. Right, so people just keep on doing sacrifices, and because they don't understand what's sunnah and what's wajib and what's mandatory and so on and so forth. Then you have what are known as the manasik. The manasik of Hajj just refer to the rituals that take place in that 5 days. Hajj is 5 days. Everything before it is not necessarily the Hajj. Everything after it's not necessarily the Hajj. Hajj is those 5 days. The manasik of Hajj are those 5 days. Then you have the fidya. The fidya is your compensation. That's a mandatory sacrifice that you must do if you miss wajib, if you miss something that's mandatory, but can be made up through one of these compensations. So you have 3 different things that you can do. One, the most common, you can offer an animal sacrifice. I put up the website there, adahi.org. Adahi.org, they do the sacrifices within Saudi Arabia. And also, by the way, even the mall where the clock tower is, I forget the name of that mall, but the Fairmount, the Fairmount has this booth, right? It's I don't know if it's in the other malls as well, but they have these booths actually where you can go and you can offer a sacrifice. Can a sacrifice be done outside of Saudi Arabia? Can you call someone in another country and tell them to do the sacrifice on your behalf, to have an animal done? Yes, there's nothing that stipulates that it has to be done within Saudi. Okay? So if you have that capacity, where you can call someone, and especially someone that has access to refugees or something of that sort, that's fine. Let them do the sacrifice, inshallah, on your behalf. Just make sure that they actually do the sacrifice. All right? Don't call somebody that doesn't like you and be like, hey, can you do a sacrifice on my behalf? And they don't do it. You don't want to sacrifice your Hajj. So make sure the sacrifice gets done, inshallah ta'ala. That's one way. The other one is to fast 3 days when you return home. To make the intention to fast 3 days when you return home. As soon as you return home, you fast 3 days. Per sacrifice, all right, or per omitted wajib, per omitted action, obligatory action. So if I missed 2 things, then I'll fast 6 days and so on and so forth, okay? So that's one as well that you can do. The third one is to feed 6 needy people, which is very easy to do in Hajj, all right? You can easily go and you can buy a few sandwiches. If you really want to do ihsan, then you go to Al-Bayk and you buy 6 chicken boxes. Because people love Al-Bayk over there, and if you don't know what Al-Bayk is, you will soon know what it is, inshallah. All right? Let me put it to you this way. You'll have lines of people outside of Al-Bayk, like you'll think it's a ritual of Hajj. All right? You've got lines of people, and you've got like McDonald's and there's no one there, and then you've got Al-Bayk, and you've got like 3,000 people in line. All right? So if you really want to be nice to the poor people over there, go to Al-Bayk. All right? They really love it. All right? But the point is, any meals, any filling meals, inshallah ta'ala, for 6 poor people, you can find 6 poor people that are there, and give 6 meals, that also suffices, inshallah ta'ala. That also can count as a fidya. There's no preference with the 3. Okay? You have the option. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give preference to any one of these 3. You can do any one of them, inshallah ta'ala, that you please. Then you have the state of ihram. And ihram is the state of being mandatory, or it is a state of being that is mandatory for umrah and some parts of Hajj, and it's a state of being. So ihram is not necessarily referring to the cloth, it's referring to your state. Women are in ihram even when they're not wearing the cloth. You're in a state of ihram. And that state has conditions and prohibitions which we're going to cover, inshallah ta'ala. Then you have what's known as the miqat. The miqat is the point from where you make the intention for Hajj or Umrah and you enter into ihram. before entering into Mecca. If you're flying to Medina first, you don't have to worry about this until you get to Medina. So for the people of Medina, the miqat is Abiyar Ali. When you're leaving Medina, you'll stop at the miqat, you'll make the intention and so on and so forth when you get there. If you're flying into Jeddah, you're going to actually fly over a miqat. So you'll have to make the intention in the plane. Then you have the different types of Hajj, 3 types of Hajj. You probably need to only be concerned with 2 of them. All right, and these 3 types of Hajj are Tamattu'. Tamattu' is the most preferred method of Hajj. Tamattu' it actually comes from mata' or mut'a, something that's temporary in its nature. Okay, and it also is comfortable. Okay, there's comfort in this state of Hajj. What is this? This is when you do Umrah and Hajj with a break from Ihram in between. Meaning you go to Mecca with the state of Ihram, you leave your state of Ihram, and then you take up your state of Ihram once again when the days of Hajj start. That's Tamattu'. Why is it the most preferred method of Hajj? Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said, if I live till the next year, then I will do Tamattu'. Alright? The Prophet ﷺ, the Hajj that he did was Qiran. Qiran means to tie 2 together, which means you enter into Ihram with one intention for Umrah and in Hajj. Okay, Umrah and Hajj are one Ihram together. So in the first state of being, you'll go, let's say that, it makes sense to do Tamattu' if you're going really any time before the 7th of Dhul Hijjah. Alright, if you're going to get to Mecca any time before the 7th, it makes sense to do Tamattu' so that you can, take a shower, clean up after you do your Umrah and so on and so forth. And then once you start again on the 8th, inshallah ta'ala, you retake your Ihram. If you're going on the 7th or on the 8th, then it makes more sense to do Qiran, to do one, because it actually becomes a hassle to get out of your Ihram and get back into it. But the Prophet ﷺ, he did Qiran, and he said, if I live till next year, then I'll do Tamattu'. Okay? Then you have Ifrad, which is single. And this is really the Hajj of the people of Mecca, the people that live there, that they just take up the Ihram for Hajj alone. They don't do Umrah with Hajj, they just take up the Ihram for Hajj alone. Then you have the Hadi. And the Hadi is the animal sacrifice that's on the day of Eid if you're doing Tamattu' or Qiran. Okay? Tamattu' or Qiran. Which is, again, if you're going from the States, you're going to be doing one of those 2. Alright? The Hadi is the sacrifice on the day of Eid. So it's not like the Fidya. Why is this important to know the difference? Because you can't walk up to one of those booths and say, I want to do a Fidya in the place of the Hadi. Because the sacrifice that takes place, the intention of the sacrifice on the day of Eid is Hadi, it is not Fidya. It's not making up for a missed wajib. Okay? So that sacrifice is the sacrifice on the day of Eid. Now, it's not practical for people to go and actually do their own sacrifice. Usually you're going to have someone else that's going to do it for you. I don't think there's any agency in the U.S. that actually does your sacrifice, that collects the money for your sacrifice from the U.S. They usually collect it over there, so just have that in mind that you're going to pay for a sacrifice when you're over there. Okay? Why? Because it doesn't make sense for the agencies to collect that money when they're here. Instead they do it over there. Someone will do it on your behalf. And there are 2 different ways that agencies will do it. Either the head of the Hamla, the head of the agency, actually knows the person that's doing the sacrifice, so he'll be in touch with that person, he'll go identify the animals, so on and so forth, give them the names. And then once the sacrifice is done, he'll get a phone call. Or, it'll just be general, meaning it's with the ministry over there. So you'll have a coupon that verifies that it's going to be done at some point during the day, and you assume that it'll be done in the first half of the day. And it's just from a practical perspective, that's okay. Okay, to just assume that it's going to be done. Otherwise, again, perhaps your agency, the guy might know someone that does it personally, and he'll get a phone call. Alhamdulillah, in our agency, we actually do know someone, inshallah ta'ala, so we'll actually have the exact timing that it's been done. And we actually see the animals, and so, well, not you guys, we see the animals before the sacrifice is done, and so on and so forth. Then you have the talbiyah. The talbiyah, obviously, is the chant. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika laka labbaik, inna alhamda wa ni'mata laka wal mulk la sharika lak. In the time of Jahiliyyah, in the time of the days of ignorance, they actually used to have a different talbiyah. They used to say, Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika laka illa sharikan تَمْلِكُهُ. They used to say that, here we come, O Allah, coming to you, praising you alone, without associating a partner with you, except for a partner that you yourself own. Alright? Meaning what? They used to associate partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So a sharik that you yourself appointed. So the Prophet ﷺ, he took it back to the chant of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the talbiyah of Ibrahim alayhi salam, which is declaring the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This talbiyah is the talbiyah of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Okay? So this is actually the chant of Ibrahim alayhi salam. It becomes, we'll talk about the times inshallah ta'ala where it's good to do this, but generally speaking, this is the most beloved dua in a state of ihram. Now, then you have the sunnahs of entering into ihram at the miqat. So we're going to talk about this inshallah ta'ala. This is now starting Hajj, starting the process of Hajj. So you're entering into a state of ihram. What are the sunnahs of entering into ihram at the miqat? Now sunnah means if you don't do any of these, then you're not going to be charged or penalized. You don't have to offer a fidya. Okay? One of them is to bathe yourself. The second one is to trim the mustache, the armpits, the armpit hair, the pubic hair, and your nails. Okay? Not your beard. MashaAllah, a lot of brothers like to get clean shaved before ihram. That's not the best time to do that. Okay? So shave your mustache, or trim your mustache, trim your armpit hair, your pubic hair, cut your nails. Applying perfume. Now, do you apply perfume to the cloth itself, or do you apply perfume to the body, to your body? So you would apply perfume to your body, and then you'll wear the ihram over that. It's fine if the ihram gets perfume on it afterwards, or cologne, or whatever it is on it afterwards. But you apply that scent to your body, and then you put on your ihram towels. Okay? So this is the sunnah. Passing the miqat through Medina, that you can do all of these things before you leave Medina, but without the intention of entering into ihram. The intention can only be made at the miqat. What does that mean? That means in your hotel room in Medina, you bathe, you perfume yourself, you trim your nails, you trim your hair, and so on and so forth. You get ready, but once you get to the miqat, that's when you'll officially declare your intention. That's where you'll actually do the things that you need to do. If you're passing over the miqat in the plane, then the pilot is going to announce that you're about to pass over the miqat. This is if you're flying into Jeddah, and it's about 30 minutes before landing. Okay, about 30 minutes before landing, he's going to announce it. At that point, you make the intention for ihram. Now, if you're doing tamattu', this is very, very important here. If you're doing tamattu', which is the Hajj, that again, if you're going to Mecca before the 7th of Dhul Hijjah, this is the Sunnah Hajj anyway, and the best Hajj to do. And if you're in my group in particular, that's the Hajj that we're going to do. If you're going into Mecca at that time, when you do the intention for ihram, you're going to say labbaik Allahumma bi umrah. Okay? Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, and you'll continue with the rest of the talbiyah. Again, you'll say labbaik Allahumma umrah or labbaik Allahumma bi umrah. Okay? You're making the intention for umrah at that point, because you're going to exit that ihram before you do the ihram of Hajj. So if you're doing tamattu', you're going to make the intention only for umrah at that point. If you miss that, the sacrifice is required. Meaning if you miss the intention for ihram, let's say that you fell asleep on the plane, and you passed over Jeddah, and you passed over the miqat, and you woke up in Jeddah. All right, I actually saw someone go through that one time, and the lady was screaming and yelling at the flight attendants, yelling at the pilot, yelling at everyone around her, why didn't you wake me up, and things of that sort. If that happens, then you simply make the intention when you wake up. If you pass through the miqat by accident without making the intention, that's fine. One big mistake, sisters that are on their period, they still have to make the intention when they pass through the miqat. Even if you're not going to pray, even if you're not going to do wudu, you still make the intention. So you will still announce your intention for umrah, because your intention is that when you become pure, you're going to do umrah. If you miss this, a sacrifice is required. Okay? Is that understood? No matter what your situation is, you're going to make that intention at that moment, whether you do the prayer or not. If you're doing Hajj on behalf of someone else, then you will say labbaika an, and you will mention the name of that person. Now, very important fiqhi connotations here. Number one, can you do Hajj on behalf of someone before doing Hajj for yourself? No. Can you do Umrah on behalf of someone before doing Umrah on behalf of yourself? No, because according to most of the fuqaha, Umrah is part of the Hajj. Doing Umrah is part of the Hajj. So if you haven't done Umrah for yourself before, then according to many of the fuqaha, you should do Umrah for yourself and you should do Hajj for yourself. If you've done, and this is where I want you guys to pay attention here. If you've done Umrah before and you haven't done Hajj before, can you make the intention of Umrah on behalf of one person and do Hajj for yourself? Yes. Okay? I'm going to say that again. You've done Umrah before, you haven't done Hajj before. Therefore, your Hajj has to be for yourself. Okay? But your Umrah in Tamattu' only. Only in Tamattu' because the Umrah and the Hajj are separated in Tamattu'. You can do the Umrah on behalf of someone else, but the Hajj would still have to be for yourself. Okay? If you've done Hajj before, alright? I know you guys are getting confused right now. You're just like, let's just stop talking about this. But if you've done Hajj before, can you dedicate the Umrah to yourself and then do Hajj on behalf of someone else? Yes. So if you've done Hajj before, but you want to do the Umrah for yourself, you want to do the Hajj on behalf of someone else, that's fine as well, inshallah ta'ala. So the only thing that you'll do, you'll say, Labbayka an, here we come, O Allah, an, on behalf of, and you mention the name of that person, inshallah ta'ala. Then you'll pray 2 rak'ahs. Now praying 2 rak'ahs, there's a difference of opinion because it's unclear from the evidence if the Prophet ﷺ prayed 2 rak'ahs separately for ihram or if he just prayed 2 rak'ahs for something else. If it was another sunnah or it just happened that the Prophet ﷺ prayed those 2 rak'ahs as he was passing. If it was rak'atayn, if it was tahiyatul masjid, entering into the masjid. There's a lot of difference of opinion here. But it's better, inshallah ta'ala, just to do, the majority of the scholars, they say that you pray 2 rak'ahs with the intention of doing sunnah for ihram. That there is, in fact, a sunnah of 2 rak'ahs for ihram. Again, if you miss those 2 rak'ahs, it's fine, inshallah. Now, what's very common, let's say that you show up to the miqat, and there's a fard salah. Okay? Do you pray the 2 rak'ahs before the fard salah or the 2 rak'ahs after the fard salah? After. Okay? So you'll do the fard salah first, and then you'll pray those 2 rak'ahs, inshallah, and then you'll declare your intention. What about women who are on their menses? Again, they will do everything, including the ihram, but they will not pray or do tawaf. So that's all it is. You're doing the intention, you're doing everything at that point. Now that you're in a state of ihram means to make certain things forbidden. So you're subject to a number of prohibitions. Unintentional things are forgiven. The Prophet ﷺ says, أَعْذَرَ اللَّهُ لِأُمَّتِي الْخَطَأَ وَالنِّسْيَانَ وَمَا اسْتُكْرِهُ عَلَيْهِ. That Allah has forgiven my ummah for things that they do out of mistake or out of compulsion or out of forgetfulness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives those things. So things that are done unintentionally, you don't have to worry about them. Okay? The things that you cannot intentionally do. So first, for men only, to wear makhit, to wear sewn clothes that fit limbs. Why do I say that fit limbs? Because all clothes are sewn. Okay? That fit limbs. Okay? So the ihram at that point, if it fits like a qamis, if it fits like a shirt, then it's no longer an ihram at that point. Okay? Wearing underwear is not okay at that point. Okay? Anything that's going to fit socks in ihram, for men only, is not okay. So anything that's sewn that will fit upon you, that will hold like a piece of cloth, is not permissible. Anything that hangs loose is fine. Alright? If whatever you want to do at that point, that's fine, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? Underwear would be okay for those that have urinary incontinence and they don't have to worry about, any type of punishment or any type of harm. It's fine at that point. Blankets are permissible. Why are blankets permissible? Because blankets, again, they don't fit limbs. So you can wear a blanket, you can put a blanket on top of you, inshallah ta'ala, when you're in Mina or in Muzdalifah. You're not going to need that at this time of the year because it's really, really, really hot. But the weather can get strange sometimes in Mina. It can get cold, especially the way that the tents are in Mina. If you're, mashallah, we have the air conditioners, those air conditioning vents now. And they blow really, really, really hard at some people, and they don't blow on other people at all. So in Mina, you're either really cold or you're really hot. Okay? That's just the way it is. Just say, alhamdulillah, you have air conditioning vents, because sometimes they go out, by the way. All right? They turn those things on once a year, okay? So sometimes they go out, and everyone will be hot. So don't complain. But I'm telling you right now that you're either going to be really hot or you're going to be really cold in Mina. You're not going to be at a comfortable temperature. Okay, so if you're in the really cold part where the AC is blowing right on you, then you're going to need to cover up, inshallah ta'ala, while you're there. Blankets are permissible. Umbrellas are permissible. Now there's this new thing in Hajj which is really, really interesting. They're umbrella hats. Have any of you seen those things? They look like they're off of a cartoon. They look like Mary Poppins, or like people are going to start flying or something like that, all right? But they're these little mini hats, meaning they just hang on to you and there's a little umbrella that comes out. They're umbrella hats. For brothers, that's not permissible. All right? So you'll see a lot of people doing it. Don't do that. But umbrellas are fine because they're not makhit. So holding an umbrella to help yourself with the shade is fine. Just please don't poke anybody's eyes out. It happens all the time. All right? Especially with me. People keep hitting me in the face with their umbrellas. So don't get too comfortable, especially those of you that are going as couples and you're holding hands with your spouses, mashallah, when you're walking and your umbrellas are going all over the place. Watch who you hit in the face, because people are pretty cranky in Hajj, and you don't want to get into a fight on your way to the Jamarat. It happens all the time. So hold your umbrella up high, inshallah. Watches are fine, rings are fine, ID tags are fine, stitched belts are fine, sandals that don't cover the ankle, all of those are okay, inshallah ta'ala. Cutting or plucking the hair for both men and women requires a sacrifice. It does not include unintentional shedding through combing. These are the sacrifice crazy people. Okay? You're combing your hair and something comes out. Or you're combing your hair and something comes out. Okay? It's unintentional. Or you're getting nervous and you're scratching your beard or you're twirling your hair or something like that. You're not paying attention and just unintentionally you pull out a hair. It's okay. You don't have to offer a sacrifice. But you can't sit there and actually pull hair out. All right? Or cut your hair or shave or do anything of that sort. Okay? MashaAllah, some brothers on the day of Arafah like to get, nice and clean shaved. You can't do it at that point, right? So you'll see some people on the morning of Arafah, shaving like they're on a Gillette commercial or something like that, just getting really, really happy because they're going to Arafah. You can't touch your hair on purpose on the day while you're in Ihram. Clipping nails for men and women requires a sacrifice. That doesn't include broken nails or things by accident. Let's say that you have those nails that are like hanging off because you tripped on something or clipped something. Do you have to leave it there? No, if it's like hanging off and it's just pull it off, that's fine, inshallah ta'ala. All right? And you guys probably think this isn't relevant right now, but you'll see. All right? Covering your face with niqab for women requires a sacrifice. For men, it's fine if you want to wear niqab for whatever reason. All right? It's actually not okay, but covering your face with niqab. And niqab here means the tied niqab, something that touches the face. So the type of face veil that would cover the face. Aisha radiallahu anha, she actually says that the women, they used to wear them. They used to unveil their faces, and when men came around, they pulled their veils back over their faces and so on and so forth. But the type of niqab that would be tied to the face, that would touch the face, that's not permissible. Covering your head for brothers only requires a sacrifice. Sisters, please keep your heads covered. All right. Wearing perfume for brothers and sisters requires sacrifice. You can still take showers. You can take as many showers as you want in ihram. All right. Now the bathrooms in Mina are really, really, really interesting. First of all, if any of you have ever been to sporting events, you know how the bathrooms look at sporting events? That's how they look in Hajj. All right? It's really, really, really nasty. The bathrooms are really bad, and there's nothing they can do about it. All right? There is nothing they can do about it. All right? That's just how it is. It's the amount of people. It's just the sheer traffic on those bathrooms, and their long lines and so on and so forth. Your bathrooms are going to be nasty. The way that it is, you've got the toilet and you've got the shower head all in the same stall. Okay? You guys are already thinking about not going to Hajj, aren't you? All right? Shower head, toilet. All right? You know, the holes in the ground are actually better in Hajj, even if you don't like them usually. Okay? Why? Because it's a lot easier, because when you've got the toilet bowl, sorry to be explicit, but it comes out really far, and taking a shower is very, very uncomfortable. Okay? But that's how it is. The same stall for the shower, the same stall for the bathroom. It's a camp, basically. Okay? But you can take as many showers as you want. Perfumed soap, or scented soap. This is amongst the doubtful things. It's better to avoid, but if you use it, it's fine. Why do I say that? Because, you know, mashallah, there's some generous people in Saudi Arabia. Sometimes they'll pass out these boxes, and you'll have croissants. You're going to have 1 million croissants, all right? They're just croissants and like some really old orange juice, and make sure the milk's not expired. But you have these boxes that get handed out. And sometimes they have scented towels right in there. if you see it and you remember, it's better not to use it, because it might still fall under the ruling of perfume. But if you use it unintentionally, then don't worry about it. Don't flip out. It's okay, inshallah ta'ala. If you use scented soap by accident, it's okay. It's not a big deal. Because again, I personally actually don't believe scented soap falls under the prohibition in the first place. But again, you want to avoid the khilaf, you want to avoid the doubtful matter, that's fine, inshallah ta'ala. Try to use unscented soap, try to use unscented deodorant. Try to find anything that's unscented, inshallah ta'ala, for your period of ihram. Kissing or touching the spouse provocatively requires major istighfar, obviously, major tawbah, and some scholars say it requires a sacrifice as well. Engaging in intercourse, Hajj is invalidated, so you really want to stay away from each other in Hajj. We try to make that happen by putting everyone separately, inshallah, in Hajj. Okay, entering into a marriage contract, if you see someone that you like, all right, in Hajj, please don't go up to them and propose to them. It's haram to propose in ihram. That's not the time to go into a nikah contract. Okay, wait till after everything is done, inshallah ta'ala. You'll look better after you get out of ihram anyway, and then you can go propose, inshallah. Hunting. I don't know why anyone would go there wanting to hunt, but if you go and you hunt an animal, if you see a camel that just looks really, really, really good and you decide to kill a camel, okay, then you have to, first of all, probably go through the criminal proceedings in Saudi Arabia. Second of all, you have to offer a camel in sacrifice. So if you hunt an animal, then you sacrifice an animal that's similar to that animal as well. Insects. This is a big one. This actually wasn't in my old document because I thought that it was self-explanatory, but it's not, because, a few years ago there was a brother that had a roach that was on him, and he came up to me and he didn't know whether he should kill the roach or not. All right. Can you kill insects while you're in ihram? Okay. The Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned there are 5 types of animals that can be killed while you're in ihram or not in ihram. So he said the crow, the kite, which is a type of bird, a scorpion, a mouse, a ferocious dog. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned a snake. Okay, all of these things are permissible. Insects as well, harmful insects. All of these things, they can be killed. You don't have to worry about killing a mosquito. If a mosquito is biting you, kill the mosquito. It's okay. It's not going to affect your ihram at all. All right. So harmful insects or animals that would be harmful. If there's a rat somewhere, then you can go ahead and kill the rat. All right. Or you can scream and wait for someone else to come kill the rat. Insect repellents, it's better to avoid because obviously they give off a scent. So wearing insect repellents is not something that's permissible. Please don't cut down trees in the haram. Okay. There aren't many of them anyway, but cutting down trees in the haram requires a sacrifice. Right? So these are the things that if you do them intentionally, they break your ihram. So you start now, you put on your ihram, you make the intention, you start doing the talbiyah. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika laka labbaik, innal hamda wal ni'mata laka wal mulk la sharika lak. So you'll keep on making the talbiyah, inshallah ta'ala. You recite it as much as you can individually until you reach the haram without waiting for a guide to do so. It is an innovation if someone is leading, and you're going to see this a lot. People are going to be on their microphones and they're going to say, Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, and everyone else behind them will say, Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, then they'll say, Labbaik la sharika laka labbaik, and so on and so forth. That is an innovation. Rather, everyone should be constantly saying the talbiyah. The talbiyah is the best dua at that point. It's better than istighfar. It's better than tasbih. It's better than reading Quran. The best thing you can do at this time is talbiyah. Okay? Men should do so in a loud voice. Women should do so in a low voice. It should not be done with a leader, again, the way that I demonstrated. But obviously, some people also go to another extreme where they try, because they think it's bid'ah if the voices naturally coincide with one another, so they try to do what everyone else is not doing. And it gets really, really, really annoying. You don't have to go to that extent. All right? Naturally, the voices will unite and it will become a single voice. All right? Here's what usually happens. Mark my words. The first 5 minutes on the bus, people will be doing talbiyah. After that, mashallah, you're going to hear snoring in 50 different languages. All right? People go to sleep and people start talking and so on and so forth. As much as you can, stay motivated and keep doing it, inshallah. Do it till you fall asleep. That's fine. But as much as you can, inshallah ta'ala, stay in that state of talbiyah, inshallah. That doesn't mean you can't do other forms of dhikr. That just means that's the best dhikr you can do at that time. That doesn't mean you can't read Quran. Now, reading Quran is always good. Doing the dhikr is always good. But talbiyah is the ultimate dhikr in that time. So now we get to the umrah. Okay? So the first tawaf is called Tawaf al-Qudum. Okay? Now, wudu is required for tawaf according to the strongest opinion. I want you guys to listen to me very, very, very carefully, because this is a fiqhi principle that's going to come in handy for you with some of your questions in tawaf. The Prophet ﷺ likened tawaf to salah. He likened tawaf to salah. The difference is that in tawaf you can talk to an extent. Okay? Not get too carried away, but you can talk a little bit. Alright? Talking is not prohibited in tawaf the way it is in salah. The Prophet ﷺ made a strong connection between the two. However, there is no qat'i evidence. There is no explicit 100% indisputable evidence that tahara, purity, is needed for tawaf. And we'll go over why that's important to know. However, wudu is required for tawaf according to the vast majority. If you can make wudu, again, you can be in a state of purity, then you do so. And you liken it to your salah. For the brothers, you expose your right shoulder only for tawaf al-qudum. Are you going to expose it for the first three or for the entire tawaf al-qudum? For the entire tawaf al-qudum. So you're not going to stop after three and then cover your right shoulder. You're going to leave your right shoulder uncovered, inshallah ta'ala, throughout the tawaf al-qudum. You enter into the haram through any gate. Any gate. Some of the scholars mention the preference for Bab as-Salam. But there's really no evidence to suggest that you should enter through Bab as-Salam. Instead, enter through whatever gate you can, inshallah ta'ala, and look for the green light. The green light is where the black stone is. So you're going to see the green light. And by the way, the haram looks different every year with all the construction. So even though I've been to Hajj numerous times, I can't really tell you how it's going to look, but there will be something to signify that the black stone is there. So you make your way towards that, inshallah ta'ala, and you start your tawaf from there. But again, you can enter through any gate, inshallah. Many of the gates, the traditional gates, are actually demolished or under construction right now anyway. So don't try to look for a particular one. You will enter into it the way that you enter into the masjid. You enter with your right foot first. You say, Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, Allahumma ighfir li dhunubi, waftah li abwaba rahmatik, a'udhu billahi al-azim, wa biwajhihi al-kareem, wa bi sultanihi al-qadeem, min ash-shaytan al-rajim. A'udhu billahi al-azim, wa biwajhihi al-kareem, wa bi sultanihi al-qadeem, min ash-shaytan al-rajim. So you will say this as you enter into the masjid, inshallah. And you don't have to pray 2 rak'ahs. Tahiyatul masjid. Tawaf replaces the 2 rak'ahs of entering the masjid. It replaces tahiyatul masjid. However, for other times, and a lot of people think that you have to do tawaf every time you go to the haram. If you want to go to the haram and just pray 2 rak'ahs and sit down, that's fine. Then you'll do tahiyatul masjid. So it's an either or type of thing for other times. Okay? When you go for tawaf al-qudum, you don't do tahiyatul masjid. You don't do the 2 rak'ahs to enter into the masjid. Tawaf replaces that. You align yourself with the black stone. You face it. You make takbir. You say Allahu Akbar. And you signal towards it with your right hand. The Prophet ﷺ, at times, he would kiss it. At times, the Prophet ﷺ actually did tawaf on riding his camel. And Rasulullah ﷺ used his stick, and he just simply touched it with his stick. So again, the order of preference is to kiss it, to touch it, or to signal towards it, to point to it, to signal towards it. Again, nothing elaborate, don't get emotional, it really is just a stone. And I'm not belittling it. Omar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he's the one who said, I know that you are nothing but a stone, you don't benefit nor do you harm. Right? And had I not seen the Prophet ﷺ kiss you, I would have never kissed you. It's just part of the rituals of Hajj. The stone was a stone that was sent from Jannah. We'll talk about it inshallah ta'ala in Hajj, okay, like as far as the history of it and so on and so forth, but there is nothing holy about the stone. So if you had the opportunity to kiss it, you don't have to, kiss it passionately or emotionally. Just give it a nice little and leave, all right? Don't get emotional and things of that sort. It's just a stone. Kiss it, signal towards it, simply because it's the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You're going to see people get really, really crazy over the black stone. In fact, when you're doing tawaf, there's traffic. Like that's where it always gets clogged up because people stop and take their time when they're passing by the black stone. So just pass them up, inshallah ta'ala. Point to it. Say Allahu Akbar with your right hand. Keep on going, inshallah ta'ala. And you will do that every time you pass by the black stone, inshallah ta'ala. you will proceed to make tawaf with the Kaaba on the left side. So you're going to go counterclockwise. I feel sorry for you if you don't figure that out when you're there. All right, but counterclockwise. The first 3 circuits of the first tawaf should be done faster paced, but it's impractical to try and run. That's for the brothers in particular. Okay? To walk faster in those first 3 rounds of tawaf al-qudum is something that's for the men. So don't do it in a way, you can just kind of make the motion. Don't do it in a way that you're going to harm people. Don't do it in a way that you're going to leave your group behind, so on and so forth. The priority is to stick together, inshallah ta'ala, as much as you can. Now, by the way, no group can do tawaf all together, which is why it's really important you know this stuff before you do tawaf. Because there is no way that all 90 of us will be together in Umrah, in tawaf. Everyone gets dispersed and everyone, ends up somewhere in tawaf. So make sure you know how to do tawaf and you know what to do before you get there. Every single time we finish the Umrah, people come up to me and say, Shaykh, I did this. Did that count? You should have studied it before you got there. Don't count on being together with your group, because there's a very big chance that you're going to end up somewhere else and they're going to end up somewhere else, and you'll have to figure it out yourself, inshallah ta'ala. And again, most people, what do? They look around and see what everyone else is doing. They end up messing up. So inshallah, stick to your guide. Learn it, inshallah ta'ala, before you go there. Now, one thing as well, keeping your shoulder exposed throughout all 7 circuits, we mentioned that. The 7 circuits of tawaf should be uninterrupted. All right? If you need to leave and come back, then you start over unless you have a hardship. All right? A hardship includes urinary incontinence. A hardship includes if a person has a difficult time keeping their wudu. Okay? If a person just inherently has a difficult time keeping their wudu. Okay? If your group has to leave, all right, let's say you have a flight to catch or so on and so forth, then you'll simply start back where you left off. Now, what is the reason for this discussion in the first place? Because the Prophet ﷺ, when he spoke about salah, when he spoke about prayer, he said, فَلْيَبْنِ عَلَى الْيَقِينِ, build upon that which is certain. So if you think you've done 3 rak'ahs, and you're not sure if you've done a 4th or not, then you assume you've done 3. Okay? So that applies to actually rule number 11 and rule number 12 here. If you doubt how many circuits you've taken, or you've done, then you go with this number that you're certain about. So if you're not sure if you've done 4 or 5, then you're going to assume you've done 4. And you're going to do another one. Now, you'd be surprised how hard it is to count 7 when you're doing tawaf. Especially for the first time and you're taken aback and you're in the scene, so on and so forth. It's going to be tough. So make sure, inshallah ta'ala, you have some way to document, or someone in your group that's going to count, that's amongst you, that's going to make sure they count accurately and so on and so forth. But again, it's like salah. So just like in salah, you'd have to start over. You'd go back to the beginning if you had to leave your salah. The same way. Also, if you don't know how many you've done, again, the same way. You're going to try to complete. Now again, if it's a need, then you don't have to do that, inshallah ta'ala. Just pick up where you left off, because it's just a strong connection. As we said, the principle is that tawaf is like salah, but it's not exactly salah. So we're not going to apply the exact rulings of salah to tawaf, but as much as we can, we will do. If you can touch the Yemeni corner. Now, the Prophet ﷺ, he used to touch al-Rukn al-Yamani. He used to touch the Yemeni corner before he touched the black stone. Do so with your right hand, otherwise do not signal towards it. The Yemeni corner is the corner before the black stone. Now, a little piece of history. The Kaaba used to be built as a rectangle in the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam. The Prophet ﷺ actually says that Ibrahim alayhi salam, he used to touch all 4 corners of the Kaaba. Alright? So the Yemeni corner is on the original foundation of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Alright? Whereas on the other side, you have the Hijr. You have that little semicircle. Alright? That denotes the area of the Kaaba. But there's nothing to touch. The foundations of Ibrahim alayhi salam are missing there. So the Prophet ﷺ would simply touch the Yemeni corner, because that's what Ibrahim alayhi salam would do, and that corner is on the original foundation of Ibrahim alayhi salam. If you're far away from it, you don't wave to it, you don't signal to it or anything like that. And by the way, don't make it a goal to kiss the black stone. Alright? Look, I've been to Hajj 8 times, I've never kissed the black stone. And I'm fine with that, alhamdulillah. Why? Because the things that you have to go through in Hajj to kiss the black stone, you're going to gather a lot more sins than you are. Alright? the good deed, the sunnah of kissing the black stone. You're going to fight, you're going to get kicked in the face. Men and women are going to be, all over, each other. It's going to be weird stuff, all right? And you're going to get purged out, at some point. You're not going to know what happened. You might not even make it there. Don't fight to kiss the black stone. If you're there, alhamdulillah, kiss it. If you're next to Rukn al-Yamani, and subhanAllah, sometimes you just get lucky in Hajj and you go do your Umrah, your Tawaf at the right time. You end up being able to touch the Yemeni corner, then do so. It's sunnah, inshallah. But don't hurt yourself to try to do these things. Between the Yemeni corner and the black stone, so this means the last part of your Tawaf, every single circuit, that last round, or that last part of the round of Tawaf, the sunnah is to say, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Alright? So, oh Allah, give us the best of this dunya, the best of the hereafter, and protect us from the fire of hell. A note here, by the way, it's actually quite beautiful that there is no other legislated dua in Tawaf. It's personal. Say whatever you want to say. Make dua in whatever language you want to make dua. Alright? You don't have to go find a book to make dua from. Alright? I think that's counterproductive. And you find people there trying to read, Arabic du'as and so on and so forth that they don't understand. And even people who know how to read Arabic, by the way, just make your own du'as, inshallah. Make your own dhikr. A lot of the time you're just going to be, trying to make sure that you're safe and you're standing on your own 2 feet. Just do dhikr at that time. You're not going to have much quiet time to do du'a and tawaf. It's more of just fast-paced du'a while you're going through the crowds and trying to get around people and so on and so forth. But make whatever du'a you want. The only legislated du'a is رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. And that is between the Yemeni corner and the black stone. Okay, so do whatever you want, inshallah ta'ala. You don't join a group du'a. Just do your own thing, inshallah. Complete your 7th circuit of tawaf, aligning yourself. Complete your 7th circuit of tawaf, aligning yourself with Maqam Ibrahim. Place it between yourself and the Kaaba. And you can go as far as you want away, as long as you are somewhat aligned with it. Why is that important? You're not going to be able to pray in front of Maqam Ibrahim. Alright? Just go to Maqam Ibrahim, meaning finish your circuit. Maqam Ibrahim is slightly after the black stone. So on the 7th circuit, you're not going to stop your tawaf at the black stone. You're going to continue walking until you see Maqam Ibrahim. Once you see Maqam Ibrahim, you're going to make a right, and you're going to go somewhere. You're going to find some place in the haram to pray 2 rak'ahs. Somewhat being aligned with it. Alright? And even if you're not aligned with it at all because of the crowd, that's fine. But what you will say is, وَاتَّخِذُوا مِن مَقَامِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مُصَلَّى. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, you would actually recite, وَاتَّخِذُوا مِن مَقَامِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مُصَلَّى. For the brothers, at that point you will cover your shoulder, and then you'll pray 2 rak'ahs, reciting silently, with Surah Al-Kafirun in the first rak'ah, Surah Al-Ikhlas in the second rak'ah. It's a sunnah. You don't have to read these 2 surahs. It's a sunnah to do so, inshallah ta'ala. You don't have to worry about, again, aligning yourself perfectly, but these are the 2 surahs that the Prophet ﷺ used to recite, just like he would in the sunnah of Fajr, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He'd recite Surah Al-Kafirun, and he'd recite Surah Al-Ikhlas. It's also sunnah to drink Zamzam at this point. Now, you don't have to go to Zamzam because there are Zamzam coolers everywhere. And you can also take a break if you want before Sa'i. Doing Tawaf and Sa'i together is exhausting even if there's no crowd. It's really, really, really exhausting. Okay? Sisters, in particular, because you can wear socks in Ihram, make sure you wear some really, really thick socks. Alright? Brothers, when you do Tawaf and Sa'i, outside of Ihram, make sure you have a pair of thick socks that you bring with you, inshallah ta'ala. Trust me, you're going to need them. Alright, because your feet are going to have all kinds of blisters and stuff like that. It's a lot of walking, and you're going to be walking on all kinds of things. So try your best, inshallah ta'ala, make sure you have a thick pair of socks, not for Ihram, but for outside of Ihram. But you can take a break. Now for Sa'i, now Tawaf, 2nd or 3rd floor of Tawaf, and again, that's assuming there is a 2nd, 3rd floor ramp, whatever it may be. Allahu Alam, the arrangement is different all the time. Now it's always different. But, obviously it's a longer walk if you're not on the 1st floor, usually. But sometimes you get done quicker anyway because of the traffic on the 1st floor, right? So don't try to jump into the 1st floor crowd. If it looks really crowded, just go to one of the 2nd floors, all right? Sa'i is the exact same distance, no matter what floor you're on. It's worth it to go find an escalator and get to the 2nd or 3rd floor of Sa'i. It's a lot easier. A lot less crowded. It's the same distance, but just most people, mashallah, we're not a very patient ummah. Right? So people just go straight from tawaf, they jump on the first floor sa'i, and it's really crowded on the first floor, and there's no benefit whatsoever to doing it on the first floor. Now what is the sunnah? When you approach as-Safa, you will recite the ayah. The ayah is the 158th ayah of Surah Al-Baqarah. Okay? إِنَّ الصَّفَا وَالْمَرْوَةَ مِنْ شَعَائِرِ اللَّهِ فَمَنْ حَجَّ الْبَيْتَ أَوْ اعْتَمَرَ فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِ أَنْ يَطَّوَّفَ بِهِمَا وَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ, and so on and so forth until the end of the ayah. So this is the 158th ayah of Surah Al-Baqarah. Some of the hadith indicate that you don't have to recite the whole ayah. You just recite إِنَّ الصَّفَا وَالْمَرْوَةَ مِنْ شَعَائِرِ اللَّهِ, which is written on the guide. I just put that there just in case you forget and you panic and you don't remember the ayah or so on and so forth, and you can just recite that inshallah ta'ala. Or again, just the Quran, just go to the 158th verse. Then you will say, أَبْدَأُ بِمَا بَدَأَ اللَّهُ بِهِ. أَبْدَأُ بِمَا بَدَأَ اللَّهُ بِهِ. Or نَبْدَأُ بِمَا بَدَأَ اللَّهُ بِهِ. Which means we start with that which Allah has started. Alright? So you get to Safa first, you recite the ayah, you say we start with that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has started. Then the sunnah is to climb as-Safa until you see the Kaaba. Now again, now you're not climbing anything. You're just facing the Kaaba. Okay, and you'll see that there's a particular area where people are facing the Kaaba. You face the Kaaba. You raise your hands as you do in dua, not in salah. Some people stand and they do this. You will raise your hands the way that you do in dua. You will face towards the Kaaba. And then you will start to do the dua that the Prophet ﷺ used to make. He used to say ﷺ, لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد وهو على كل شيء قدير لا إله إلا الله وحده أنجز وعده ونصر عبده وهزم الأحزاب وحده. This hadith is in Sahih Muslim. Now pay very close attention to me. Rasulullah ﷺ would say this as he was facing the Kaaba, okay? Then the Prophet ﷺ would make a dua of his own. Then he'd say it a second time. Then he'd make a dua of his own. Then he'd say it a third time, and that was it. So you're going to say this dua how many times? 3 times. In between them, you will have time for your own dua, which means 2 times. Between the first and the second, between the second and the third, that's where you have your time, inshallah ta'ala, to make whatever dua that you want, again, in whatever language that you want, inshallah ta'ala. Alright, so you're going to raise your hands, you're going to say this dua. Do you have to repeat the ayah 3 times? Inna as-Safa wal-Marwata min sha'airillah? No. Do you have to repeat Abda'u bima bada Allahu bihi? No. Only this part is 3 times, inshallah ta'ala. And as soon as you finish making that dua, you will proceed to walk to Al-Marwa. Okay? A little bit of picking up your pace between the 2 green markers. You'll see them, inshallah ta'ala, without disturbing anyone. And you make sure that you make the full circle on both sides. I don't have this here right now, but I'm going to go ahead and add it right now, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, here it is. Alright. For the dua, number 5. La ilaha illallah wahda, anjaza wa'da, and so on and so forth. This dua, you're going to do this every single time you get to Safa or Marwa. Alright? So you start at Safa, you're going to read Inna as-Safa wal-Marwata min sha'airillah. Then you're going to say Abda'u bima bada Allahu bihi. Then you're going to make the dua from La ilaha illallah onwards. Every time you get to Marwa or Safa after that, you're going to start off with what? What are you going to start off with? No. La ilaha illallah. Alright? So you're going to start off your dua from La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Every time you get to Safa or Marwa afterwards, inshallah ta'ala, and you'll make the dua in between as well. Make sure you do the full circle. Don't get lazy and not go, to both ends, inshallah ta'ala. Make sure you do the full circle on both sides. You finish 7 circuits one way, ending at Marwa, where the exit is. You don't do 14. It's not 7 round trip. Believe it or not, some people do that, and I don't know how they don't die. Alright, but some people actually do 7 going both ways. It's 7 in total. So you start at Safa, and when you finish your 7th, you will finish at Marwa, inshallah. Okay, and you'll exit from Marwa. Then you will be able to exit the Ihram. And you'll be able to go back to normal until the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. Alright? You exit your Ihram when you have your hair trimmed or shaved. Okay? You're not exiting ihram until you do that. That's actually the symbol of exiting the ihram. All right? I have to mention that because a lot of times people, you just, for example, you want to eat or you want to drink or so on and so forth. You go back to your hotel room, you take off your ihram, you shower, you say, I'll cut my hair later. All right? So you'll actually exit with the trimming or with the shaving, inshallah ta'ala. Now at this point, for the brothers in particular, have your hair trimmed but not shaved, as you'll need to leave enough to cut after exiting the ihram of Hajj. So when you do your umrah, you can, as much as you want to trim. You could even take a 0 to your head, a number 1 to your head, whatever it may be, but just leaving something to be able to shave, inshallah ta'ala, since it's close proximity to the exiting of the ihram of Hajj. All right? You'll need to take evenly from your hair, from your head, so you can't get like a nice mohawk or frohawk or whatever it is that you call them, whenever you're exiting out of ihram. No fancy haircuts. Don't go, don't go get a Kaaba put in your head. All right? You're either going to trim or shave altogether, inshallah ta'ala. Now, it's better to have your own clippers and do this in the hotel room. Why is that? Especially if you're going to shave. I don't recommend using the blades that are outside. I know there's a long-standing difference of opinion amongst the veterans of Hajj here. I personally don't trust those blades that are outside. So if you want to take your own clippers, inshallah, then do so. Is it permissible to cut your own hair to exit ihram? Yes, it is. Contrary to what people think, you can actually exit your ihram yourself. You can actually shave your own hair or trim your own hair. Is it permissible? Let's say 2 people are in ihram. Is it permissible that I say, okay, you cut my hair first, then I'll cut your hair? Yes, it is. Okay? Because you're doing that with the intention of exiting ihram. So it's fine to do so, inshallah ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ, actually the hadith of Hudaybiyah, Sulh Hudaybiyah, where when they did the treaty, Salama radiallahu anha told the Prophet ﷺ to shave his head and to slaughter. And that'll make the Sahaba understand that they're going back to Medina. So the Prophet ﷺ, he cut his own hair, according to some of the narrations, and the Prophet ﷺ slaughtered. So you can do it yourself, inshallah. Now women, what you're going to do is you're basically going to grab your hair from the back if you can, and you're going to just take some scissors and just remove a little bit from the end of your hair, like 1/4 or 1/2 of an inch. Just take something from your hair, gather it all together, grab it, and just take some scissors, or let someone do it for you, inshallah ta'ala. It's symbolic. Okay? Don't get your hair cut short, just a little bit, inshallah ta'ala. Just take a little bit from the end of your hair, inshallah. At that point, everything has become halal for you that was halal before ihram until the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. Why is this important? Because there's a partial exiting of ihram and there's a full exiting of ihram. Here you have a full exit from ihram. Everything that was halal to you before is halal to you now. All right? Now there's a big mistake that people make. Now generally speaking, by the way, I'm going to tell you what happens. We go to Aziziyah on, we're going to leave Medina, we'll probably get to Mecca maybe the morning of the 6th of Dhul Hijjah. Okay, with the bus ride and the traffic and everything like that. You have a day and a half to rest before the days of Hajj start. A lot of people want to keep going to the Haram. The Haram is crazy at that time. They go exhaust themselves, get tired, get sick, go try to do multiple umrahs, right? So not only is there a theological problem with that, or a fiqhi problem with that, it's not good for you because you wear yourself out before the days of Hajj start. You actually want to, just relax as much as you can in those 48 hours before Hajj as you can. Because you have Arafah coming up. So you want to try to just rest, stay put. Anticipating a ibadah is ibadah in and of itself. So you're sitting in Aziziyah and you're waiting for Hajj, that's ibadah. All right, you're preparing yourself, you're reading. We'll have some nice halaqas, inshallah ta'ala, to keep ourselves engaged, inshallah, from an iman perspective. But please don't try to exhaust yourself. Don't even try to keep going to the Haram to pray. All right, and some of the ulama, by the way, because Aziziyah is part of the Haram, all right, in the expanded sense, some of them say, inshallah, Salah in Jama'ah in Aziziyah has the same reward. It has the multiplied reward because in the Haram. It's an opinion, but the point is, don't keep trying to go to the Haram and pray and so on and so forth. Those few days before the Hajj days, it's craziness. It's absolute craziness, all right? The big fiqhi problem is people that go to Tan'im, to Masjid Aisha, to redo their ihram and do multiple umrahs. The Prophet ﷺ did not do that. It wasn't narrated from any of the companions. And it becomes sort of like a merit, right? Like I did 5 umrahs. Like I want to go do umrah on behalf of someone else. unless it's an oath, or unless it's a promise. Like you promise someone to do Umrah on their behalf, or a relative of yours recently passed away, and it's really just something that's extremely compelling, and you want to go do one more Umrah, that's fine. It's not wise. And if it becomes too much, then it actually can become an innovation. It can actually become a bid'ah because it wasn't the practice of the Prophet ﷺ or the companions. Instead, they would relax and they would rest until the days of Hajj. So use your extra time, inshallah ta'ala, to get prepared. Make nafil tawaf if you can. You know, that's again, this is if you have a good amount of time. But for my group, I tell people not to do that in the day and a half before Hajj. Instead, rest. Don't miss a salah in jama'ah. That includes aziziyah as well, by the way. Try to pray in jama'ah as much as you can, inshallah. Make it a point to rest up, inshallah, before Hajj. Don't get exhausted with the nawafil before Hajj. Now you have the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. Now on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, this is known as Yawm al-Tarwiyah, the day of rest. And it's the day that they would go and they would rest their camels. So they'd go to Mina, they'd get ready for the Hajj. But again, this day is completely a sunnah. The 8th day is completely a sunnah. Repeat all of the sunnahs that you did for Ihram and Umrah and declare your intention for Hajj. You don't have to go back out of Mecca to make the Ihram now. You will make the Ihram from where you are. Alright, so the second Ihram, the Ihram of Hajj, is made from wherever you are. You'll make it from Aziziyah, inshallah, or wherever you may be. And that's where you're going to say, Labbaik Allahumma bihajj. Okay? So now you're making the intention for Hajj. Alright? Ideally, you will reach Mina on the 8th day. Alright? What we try to do as a group, we actually try to leave in the middle of the night on the 7th and just go get to Mina early so that you don't have to worry about sitting in traffic and so on and so forth. But ideally, you'll get to Mina sometime during the day. When you get to Mina, the sunnah at that point is to pray all of your prayers shortened but not joined. So you pray qasr without doing jama', without combining. Alright, so you're going to pray dhuhr at its time, 2 rak'ahs, asr at its time, 2 rak'ahs, maghrib at its time, 1.5 rak'ahs. I'm not being serious, okay? Maghrib at its time, 3 rak'ahs. Isha at its time will be 2 rak'ahs. And you're going to pray them all at their time. Now let's say that you slept and you missed one. Technically speaking, you're musafir, you're a traveler. You have the right to join. But the sunnah is not to join at that point. So technically speaking, it's okay to join. But it's better to pray qasr, inshallah, at the time because that's what the Prophet ﷺ did on the day of Mina. Try to get a good night's sleep for the big day tomorrow, which is Arafah. Think of the du'as that you want to make. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. What we have in our group, we do something really cool. We call it the annual Hajj convention. What I try to do is I try to find some of the other mashayikh in our camp. We take one tent and we just all kind of cram into that one tent, and everyone sort of gives a reminder of Arafah. So it's my favorite convention of the year. It beats Ikna, Isna, Mas, it beats them all, mashallah. It's the Hajj convention, where we try to get some of the ulama together, inshallah, just to kind of remind everyone. That's in the North American camps. So just an FYI, inshallah. Usually, do we have the tent numbers already? No? Somewhere, it's usually in the 40s though, right? Yeah, we're office 44, so tent 44 if you're not in our group, inshallah ta'ala. You might get kicked out, but that's between you and the police officers and however that guy feels at that time. Alright, important note, bathrooms are going to be terrible for the rest of Hajj. Try to avoid foods that make you go. Alright, take something to hold your stomach if you want to. Don't accidentally take a laxative. Alright, a lot of people do that. Make sure the medicine that you're taking to hold your stomach is actually there to hold your stomach. Okay, you'd be surprised how many people end up doing the opposite. Alright, but again, try to eat foods that aren't going to make you go. Alright, so try to eat foods that are going to hold your stomach. Consult with a nutritionist or whatever it is, but just try to make sure, that you're going to hold yourself, inshallah ta'ala. Important note number 2, memorize your tent number in Mina. No one is going to be helpful in these days. You might get lost in Aziziyah or Mina. If you have a phone where you could drop a pin, okay, using your Maps app or whatever it is, drop a pin at the location, Aziziyah and Mina, do so, inshallah ta'ala. Everywhere in Mina looks the same pretty much. And it's really easy to get lost. And when you walk up to people and ask for directions, they're just going to go. They're going to point that way. All right, and we've had people get lost, masakeen, subhanAllah. We've had people get lost for over a day sometimes. Okay? trying to figure out because they took the wrong way. And usually you go as a group anyway when you go to Jamarat and so on and so forth. But memorize your tent number. All right, keep your ID with you, keep the phone number with you, keep a phone with you, so on and so forth. And if you can, drop a pin if you have a smartphone in Mina and in Aziziyah, inshallah ta'ala. Now you have the 9th day of the Hajj, which is Arafah. You depart from Mina for Arafah, getting there any time before Dhuhr. Okay? What we try to do is we usually try to leave slightly before Fajr or after Fajr. We try to get there early, sometime even the middle of the night. Why? That way you can rest in Arafah and you can sort of get yourself collected so that when the time of Dhuhr comes, you're ready to go. You're ready to make dua. Because you don't want to be, just getting off the bus right before Dhuhr. So our group in particular, what we do is we try to leave way before Dhuhr to Arafah so that we can get there early and relax. We have breakfast in Arafah. And mashallah, it's beautiful. Like, it's really something else. So you go there, inshallah ta'ala. You'll pray Dhuhr and Asr combined and shortened. Okay? So you'll do Dhuhr and Asr combined and shortened. Why would the Prophet ﷺ do Dhuhr and Asr combined and shortened? The Prophet ﷺ used to pray Dhuhr and Asr combined and shortened in the beginning of Dhuhr. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ did not want to interrupt his dua. Rasulullah ﷺ would make dua from the time. And that should tell you something about what his Arafah was like. From literally, he finished Dhuhr and Asr, and from that time up until Maghrib, the Prophet ﷺ never stopped making dua. Alright? So this is the one day of the year that the Messenger ﷺ prioritized dua over salah. That's how special the dua of Arafah is. Alright? So you want to do that, inshallah ta'ala. Pray them combined and shortened, inshallah ta'ala. And you will make dua throughout the day, inshallah ta'ala. Don't try to go to Masjid Namira. Okay? You'll waste a lot of time getting in and out of the crowd. You'll get spit out most likely anyway. It's not very sanitary, and you're going to waste a lot of time on the day of Arafah. So don't try to go to the masjid. Just stay in your tent, inshallah ta'ala, or stay in your camp area. Don't waste a single moment of these hours making dua. Some people smoke hookah. Some people play cards. Some people hang out and talk. Some people sleep the entire day. All right? You'd be surprised. I don't want to say last year, but it was last year, right? Sorry if anyone was in my group last year, but after I gave the reminder, I found like 40 people just hanging out in the tent talking, and I was like, I actually went off on them. And that was the one time I got mad at my group in Hajj. And it was only to make them get to making dua. Just go back to making dua. All right, so don't get carried away and lose yourself on that day of Arafah. That's the one day you really want to make sure you get things right, inshallah ta'ala. A lot of people run out of du'as to make. Okay? It's sad, but let's face it, on that day you're probably making more dua on that day than you've made for the entire year combined. Alright? So a lot of people run out of du'as to make. So think about the du'as you're going to make. Really, make a list for yourself, inshallah ta'ala. All of the things you want to pray for. So that you don't waste any time. Don't be fooled by a guide and be led to a special place. Stay close to your tent so that you don't get lost. The Prophet ﷺ said, all of Arafah is Arafah. Why did he say that? There is no virtue to going to Jabal al-Rahmah, to going to the Mountain of Mercy, and there's no virtue to standing on a mountain. There's no virtue to being in any other place. It's just Arafah. The Prophet ﷺ said the entire plain is Arafah. This entire area is Arafah. So don't try to go to a special place. You might have a guide that might come to you and be like, 10 riyals, I'll take you to that place. Don't listen to them. Stay in your camp, inshallah ta'ala, so that you don't get lost. Listen carefully to the khutbah in Arafah and do not talk during it. It's not like the Jum'ah khutbah, but it's sunnah, and you want to make sure you take advantage of these moments. There's a lot of flexibility in this topic. There is the imam who is giving the khutbah in Masjid Namira. It's sunnah. You don't have to listen to it. You don't have to take part in it. If you don't speak Arabic, you're not going to understand it anyway. Some people turn on the radios to listen to it and so on and so forth. We also will, I will do a khutbah, I'll do a reminder within our camp, sort of in that style, but it's not like a Jum'ah khutbah. Okay? But just a 5-10 minute reminder. It's all flexible, all right? There are no dawabit, there are no real principles or governing things in this khutbah or things of that sort. So it's just a reminder that comes with the Dhuhr and Asr, inshallah ta'ala. What is the major dua to make? The Prophet ﷺ says that the best thing that I and the prophets have said on the day of Arafah, meaning what? All of the prophets knew the day of Arafah. So he said the best thing that I and the prophets have said on the day of Arafah is La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah lahul mulku wa lahul hamd wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. So if you get lost and you don't know what dua to make, say La ilaha illallah and then say this dua as well. So if you have those transition periods in your dua where you're trying to think of what you want to make dua for next, just keep yourself busy inshallah with this dua, because it's the best dua that you can make. There's no basis in the sunnah for congregational or group dua in Arafah, so make it personal. Seriously, look, your own beat up dua in your own language that's going to come from the heart is going to be a lot better than just going behind a shaykh and saying Ameen. Alright? Make your own dua. Make it personal. It's between you and Allah. You're never going to get, you might never get this opportunity again. Don't try to look for someone that's making a really nice dua and do dua with them. Some of the mashayikh, they do it because they see people just hanging out and talking. Right? I personally don't agree with that. I tell people, just make your own dua. You're not going to find me on the day of Arafah. I'm letting you guys know right now. I will be with you the entire process of Hajj. On Arafah, you will not find me. So you better know what to do. You know, I'm going to be somewhere else, inshallah, on the day of Arafah. And even if you do find me, I'm not going to talk to you. Alright? I'm not going to answer your questions on the day of Arafah. That's my time as well. That's the only thing, that's my only personal time really in Hajj, is the time of Arafah. And everyone should have their personal time at that moment. No one talk at that time. Do what you have to do, inshallah ta'ala. Also, we find that we leave from Muzdalifah after the sun sets. If you can walk, then you can do so. Again, it's better to stay with your group. Now, technically speaking, let me just make a few things clear. Technically speaking, if a person came to Arafah at any point on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, then their Arafah is valid, even if they just walked in there. Alright? Even if they just made it, from an obligation perspective. Muzdalifah, you can leave at any point after Salat al-Maghrib. Alright? You don't want to leave before Maghrib. Some groups leave before Maghrib, unfortunately, but really you don't want to leave before Maghrib. You want to wait till after Maghrib, inshallah ta'ala, to leave. Muzdalifah is not a very comfortable place. Alright? Now, why do I say this? Our group, we will be the last group to leave Arafah. You know why? Because mashallah, in Arafah we have tents. We have bathrooms. It's nice and comfortable. Alright? So we will let all the traffic go. We will let everyone leave. We'll let them get to Muzdalifah. And then inshallah ta'ala, we will take off from Muzdalifah late into the night, inshallah ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ used to delay Maghrib until Isha time on that day. So he joined Dhuhr and Asr early on Arafah, and then he'd delay Maghrib until Isha time, and he'd pray Maghrib and Isha together in Muzdalifah. So we will leave some point during the night, a few hours after Maghrib, we'll leave from Muzdalifah, inshallah ta'ala. And we'll get there, we'll delay Maghrib until Isha time, and we'll pray them together, inshallah ta'ala. The sunnah is not to pray any qiyam on that night. So there's no tahajjud or qiyam on that night. The night after Arafah, you're just going to pray witr after Isha fard, and that's it. Alright? Now, by the way, just to let you guys know, Muzdalifah, if you've never been there, there's nothing like it. You're going to have feet on your head, feet on your face, feet on your shoulders, feet on your feet. Alright? It's just a bunch of people. You're lucky if you can find a place to sit down on Muzdalifah. Don't plan on getting any sleep. Okay? You'll just get there and see a pile of people, and you're like, how exactly am I going to fit into this pile? Okay? It's just people laid out everywhere. Unless you're in like one of those super deluxe VIP luxury, whatever they call those groups at this point, unless you're in one of those packages, you're not going to have a bed in Muzdalifah. You're going to sleep on the ground like everybody else. And that's the beauty of it. SubhanAllah, you just made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you just renewed yourself, and this is the day the covenant was taken with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah strips you of everything. It's like now you're starting over. You know, it's rebirth, subhanAllah. You're back in alam al-arwah, you're back in the realm of souls. It's just people piled up on each other. It's really I personally love Muzdalifah. It's weird. It's a weird type of love. It's an awkward type of love. Alright? Because for me, when I see Muzdalifah, I'm like, this is Hajj. Like, that's the time I'm really reminded that this is Hajj. Because you're not comfortable at all. Alright? I personally don't sleep on the night of Muzdalifah. Okay? I require a little bit more space. So it's hard enough for people to find. That on that day, it really benefits you to be a little bit shorter, to find a spot. Alright? But this is Hajj. Bathrooms are awful. They're even worse than Mina. Those bathrooms will make the bathrooms in Mina like 5-star bathrooms. Okay? It's a really difficult situation. The Prophet ﷺ, he tried to rest though. So even if you're not going to sleep, you just try to rest. You can find a place to sit down, then rest. If you're someone that can, mashallah, just knock out wherever you are, Alright? MashaAllah, good for you. The only sunnah dua we have from the Prophet ﷺ, he would face the Qibla ﷺ, and he would say, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Ahad, La ilaha illallah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Ahad, La ilaha illallah. So he would face the Qibla ﷺ, and he would say this. If you want, you can collect the stones for the jamarat in Muzdalifah. Alright? Now, there is no sunnah to collecting them in Muzdalifah. A lot of people think you have to collect the stones in Muzdalifah. It's very convenient though to collect them in Muzdalifah because there are a lot of stones there and you don't have anything else to do anyway. So you'll just take an empty water bottle and literally just collect your stones. You're going to collect stones that are like hummus size, like those little peas, alright? If you hit shaitan, if you hit the jamarat with this, it's not going to hurt him any more than if you hit with a little tiny stone. It's funny because sometimes, people on the last day, it's like, they're throwing their pebbles and then it's like, all right, it's the last day, so you just want to give shaitan like a bonus shot. So you throw your water bottle at him too. All right? It's not going to hurt him. It's symbolic. You're not hitting the shaitan physically. It is symbolic. So you're going to collect the sunnahs just to take some small stones, make it symbolic as you will throw those stones, inshallah ta'ala. So you're going to collect 80 small pebbles. Okay? And this can be done in Mina as well. It's just harder to do in Mina, but it can be done in Mina. Okay? No matter what package, again, you're going to sleep on the ground. This is where your yoga mat comes in handy or whatever it is, if you have it, inshallah ta'ala. Then you have the day of Eid, the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. Now on the day of Eid, you're going to pray Fajr at the beginning of its time. Okay? And you're going to leave from Muzdalifah sometime after Fajr. Okay? It is permissible for the women, the elderly, and the sick to leave before Fajr after midnight to avoid the crowd. If the group decides to do this, then we should follow. Now, we don't do this personally because usually we have the youngest group in Hajj, alhamdulillah. So we usually have a very young group, so mashallah, people are very motivated, all right? But we do have, we do take care of the elders and things of that sort. So the elderly, we'll try our best to get them to like the tents in Mina or something of that sort to rest if they really need it. If Muzdalifah is just too overwhelming for people that are having a difficult time, it's permissible for them to leave after midnight. You have options. You can either go do your tawaf at that point after midnight before Fajr, or you could go to Mina, you could throw the jamarat, you could rest, whatever it may be, but you can leave Muzdalifah after midnight if that's the case. Otherwise, you leave sometime after Fajr. What we will do, inshallah, we'll go to Mina after Muzdalifah. Probably, a little bit after sunrise, an hour or so after sunrise. We'll head to Mina, inshallah ta'ala. And you're only going to stone one of the jamarat, one of the 3 pillars. You're only going to stone Jamrat al-Aqaba, which is the big pillar. You're going to stone it with 7 stones, inshallah ta'ala. Alright, so you'll say Allahu Akbar with each stone. You're not going to stone the other 2. Again, it's not sunnah to do so. Just 7 that day. This is an exhausting day. It really is, because you're so tired, because you probably didn't sleep in Muzdalifah. You were awake in Arafah. So this is really an exhausting day. It's very hot. Okay? You'll go and you'll stone. Now, one thing very important. As I said, we're not a very patient ummah. Now, I'm going to demonstrate this, inshallah ta'ala, for you guys. Alright? Let's say these are the jamarats. Water bottles are the jamarats, okay? Here's what people do. You're walking in this way. So you're walking in from this direction. What you're going to see is that the crowds are all going to rush like this. So everyone is rushing here, okay? All you have to do, mark my word, be patient. And especially if you're a first timer there, you get overwhelmed and you're afraid if you're going to miss the jamrah if you keep walking. All you have to do, as everyone's doing this, just walk around them this way and just come from here. And you'll always find space, even on the most crowded days. Okay? And you do that for each one of the jamarat. So you're going to walk, everyone's going to go attack because they can't wait to hit shaitan. You're going to walk around all of this crowd, and you're going to find sometimes, subhanAllah, literally I can walk right up to the rail and just throw the stones patiently. There are times I don't even take stones because they might be on the rail. Right? And I'm just like, I'll just go walk up to them, just start stoning over there. Now the first time Hajjis are like, oh my God, we're going to miss it. So they'll panic and they'll just jump into it. Just be patient, walk around, come from this way. All right? The sunnah, and by the way, obviously on the first day, Jamratul Aqaba is the last Jamrah. It's the last pillar. So you're going to actually skip these two anyway. So there's no dua here or anything like that. You're literally just going to come here, you're going to walk around here, stone from here, and then keep moving, okay? There's no stopping or making dua at any point there. That's the first day, inshallah ta'ala. I'll talk about ayyam al-tashriq, inshallah, afterwards, but that's what you need to understand. Stoning can be done anytime after sunrise, preferably noon, according to some of the schools. The animal will be sacrificed by the authorities, okay, whoever you gave the permission to do so. At this point now, you can shave or cut your hair, you can take a shower, you can exit ihram, you can perform, you can wear perfume and so on and so forth. Essentially, there are 4 rites that need to be done on the day of Eid. 4 rites. All right? If you do any 3 of those 4, you can partially exit your ihram. Any 3 of those 4, you can partially exit ihram. Now, partially exiting ihram means that the only thing that's still impermissible when you partially exit ihram is intercourse. Everything else becomes permissible when you partially exit ihram. So you'll do 3 of 4. What are the 4 rites? You need to stone, Jamratul Aqaba. You need to sacrifice. You need to trim your hair or shave your head at that point. And you need to do tawaf al-ifada at some point, the major tawaf al-Eid. Okay, tawaf al-ziyara, tawaf al-ifada, it's all the same thing. The major tawaf, the rukun of Hajj, which is tawaf al-ifada. It's one of the arkan, one of the pillars of Hajj. You can do that after the 10th, all right? But on the day of Eid, you're going to do 3 things. Most likely you're going to do these 3 things first. You're going to go and stone, you're going to get the sacrifice, and then you'll exit ihram by cutting the hair. And at that point, again, you can do whatever you want, inshallah ta'ala, outside of being completely intimate with one spouse. You can take your shower, you can exit, you can wear your perfume. And it's much more comfortable, especially brothers, to go do tawaf al-ifada outside of ihram. Because then you can wear your socks and stuff like that. You can wear your thick socks and you can wear a light thobe or so on and so forth. Okay? Now, after that, we're going to head to Mecca sometime that day or soon afterwards to do tawaf al-ifada, which is a major part of Hajj. I don't recommend anyone try to do tawaf al-ifada on the 10th day. It's really, really, really tough. Okay? Unless you're single and you're suicidal, all right? And I guess those terms go hand in hand sometimes, right? All right, especially in Hajj, But otherwise, just try to wait. It gets really tempting because you just want to finish it all. Okay? It's usually better to delay it until the 11th, right? All right, you're there and it's like, okay. And again, honestly, seriously, if you're single and you want to just try it, just go for it on the 10th. But otherwise, couples in particular, elderly, make sure that you wait, inshallah ta'ala, to do it. Can someone please just go knock on one of the brothers can go take care of the kids, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. So that's what we have to do here, all right? 3 of the 4 things. Now, if you did tamattu', which we should have done, when you do tawaf al-ifada, when you do the major tawaf, then you're also going to do sa'i. You're going to do sa'i again. If you did qiran, the intention of qiran, which was a combined intention, you only have to do 1 sa'i. So you either do sa'i with your umrah or you do sa'i with your hajj. Now if you do tamattu', which is the disconnected umrah and hajj, which is what we're going to be doing inshallah ta'ala, you're going to do 2 sa'is inshallah. I personally recommend the night of the 11th. Where we're located, by the way, you're going to have a place where there are a lot of taxis, a lot of little buses, things of that sort. You get a group together, you go find these taxis, you go find these little coasters, little buses, and you try to get there on the 11th night, inshallah, meaning technically the 12th, okay? So after the 11th, after Maghrib, you go and you try to get to the haram at that time. That's the time when tawaf al-ifada is really best. It's very comfortable at that time. It's even more comfortable than Umrah sometimes. If you get there on time, inshallah ta'ala, it's even more comfortable. All right? The Prophet ﷺ allowed for any sequence though. You can do any sequence that you want, inshallah ta'ala. Now, an important note. What about women that are on their menses? What do women do in this situation? Okay? I want to make something very, very, very clear here. As we said, technically speaking, salah is equated with tawaf. Tahara is a requirement, according to the strongest opinion, for tawaf al-ifada. Now, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ will simply tell Aisha radiallahu anha to wait until the time when she becomes pure and she does her tawaf al-ifada then. It doesn't work that way now. If you have one of the packages, so if in my group you're either doing the express option where you don't go to Mecca afterwards, or you're doing the full option where you go to Mecca afterwards, if you're going to become pure at any point before your departure, you expect that, then you delay your tawaf al-ifadah. If, however, you're going to have to leave, okay, it's impractical, and that's where the fatwa of those ulama that at that point a woman can do tawaf even if she's still in her menses, that's where it comes into play. Because if you don't take that fatwa, then it's going to be haram for your husband to touch you until you come back and do tawaf al-ifadah. And I know some sisters might want that, all right, but it's pretty cruel and it's also impractical, all right? So you still will do it at that point. And we'll talk about some of the miscellaneous things here. Actually, I'll just talk about it now. What about taking pills and so on and so forth to delay the menstruation? If you're going to do that, make sure, at this point, it's not the time to experiment with that now. Usually, women end up, messing up their cycles, throwing it all out of whack by trying to do these types of things. Is it permissible technically? There is a narration in Musannaf ibn Abi Shayba from Abdullah ibn Omar radiallahu anhu. He was asked about some women would drink ma al-arak. And ma al-arak, it's like they would crush the siwak together. It was just some sort of thing that they swore would delay a woman's menses or something of that sort. He said it's permissible. But whether it's wise or not is a whole nother story. So you want to make sure that you know what you're doing, inshallah ta'ala. It's permissible to take pills to delay or to try to shift it so that you don't have to be in that awkward situation. But even if you are in that situation, you would still do tawaf at that point, because though the connection between salah and tawaf is strong, it is not a definite one. It's not definitive. Okay? And it's impractical for you to wait until you leave because, your flight's taking off. You have to do what you have to do. All right? Now, between the 11th and the 13th of Dhul Hijjah, these are known as Ayyam al-Tashriq. All right? Ayyam al-Tashriq, these are days of dhikr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to eat and drink and remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right? The central focus during these days is doing the jamarat. You're going to go and you're going to stone all 3 jamarat. So instead of just stoning this guy, Jamratul Aqaba now, you're going to stone all 3. So you're going to go around each one. Between the jamarat, so here and here. After the first jamra, after the second one. Remember the dua when you see Safa and Marwa? Between the jamarat, you will face the qibla and make dua. All right? No special dua. Nothing is legislated, just face the qibla and make dua. Otherwise, other than the stoning, each day, stoning each one 7 times, you really don't have much to do except for dhikr. It's bonding time, it's time for reading Quran. The main thing that you don't waste your time, inshallah ta'ala, try to use your time wisely, inshallah ta'ala. If a person is sick or if it's extremely hot, look, people collapse and pass out on the way to Jamarat all the time. Healthy people do. Staying hydrated is very important. By the way, if Gatorade packs or those types of things, hydration things, bring those things, inshallah ta'ala, because people pass out. It can be a 1 hour to a 2 hour walk sometimes with traffic, with a lot of people walking at the same time. All right, to the Jamarat on those days, inshallah ta'ala. So some people can have others throw on their behalf, inshallah, if they really fear for themselves going, or if others fear for them, inshallah ta'ala. All right, but otherwise, you stay there. It's not sunnah to leave. It's not sunnah to go to Mecca. You have to spend half the night in Mina. Now, why is that important? Some groups, our group, for example, has Aziziyah. And Aziziyah is close to Mina. And when I say close, I mean it's like an hour walk, an hour and a half walk, all right? That's close in Hajj days, okay? So sometimes what people like to do, including myself, by the way, a lot of people, what you do is you go stone, and when you finish stoning, you'll walk to Aziziyah, okay? And you'll kind of hang out in Aziziyah, and Aziziyah is like a camp, okay? So it's like, and by the way, Aziziyah after Mina is like Jannah. It's like, wow, this is amazing, bathrooms and things of that sort, fresh bathrooms, but a lot of people like to go chill, relax in Aziziyah before they head back to Mina. The point is that you should spend half of the night in Mina. It doesn't matter which half of the night, as long as you spend half of the night in Mina. Half of the night means between Maghrib and Isha, between Maghrib and Fajr, all right, that midpoint. So if you took the time of Maghrib, the Adhan of Maghrib to the Adhan of Fajr, and you divided it by 2, that midpoint, either you need to spend up until that time, or from that time to Fajr, or again, half of the night needs to be spent in some way, shape, or form, inshallah ta'ala, in Mina, each of those nights, inshallah ta'ala. If you got delayed because you went and you did tawaf and you got stuck, that's a different story altogether. you should intend to do so, inshallah ta'ala, but if a need holds you back, then it's okay. Then comes tawaf al-wada', which is the farewell tawaf. Okay? Tawaf al-wada', it's not a rukun, it's not a pillar. It is a wajib or a sunnah. The scholars differ over it. It's either category 2 or category 3. It's either a wajib or a sunnah. Okay? The majority of the scholars class it as a wajib, meaning if you miss it, then you would owe a sacrifice or some form of compensation. Okay? You'd either have to give a sacrifice, fast 3 days, or feed 6 poor people. This should be the last thing that you do in Mecca. Okay? Now here's the thing. This can be done anytime afterwards. Can the intention be combined with tawaf al-ifada if you're not returning to Mecca? According to some narrations, some of the Sahaba did that. So what some of the Sahaba did, Imam Malik rahimahullah narrates this in his Muwatta, that some of the Sahaba, they basically delayed their tawaf al-ifada until the last thing that they did before they left, and that took the place of their tawaf al-wada'. Now, those scholars that have that opinion, and this is my opinion as well, Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that tawaf al-wada' is not laysa maqsood bi dhatihi, which means that it's not a ritual in and of itself. It's like tahiyatul masjid. It's like the 2 rak'ahs when you enter into the masjid. What that means is just like if you come into the masjid and salah has started, you don't pray 2 rak'ahs entering the masjid because you're starting off with salah anyway. So some of the scholars say the point is that the last thing you do in Mecca is tawaf. You're leaving on ibadah. So let's say if you're on an express package, for example, okay, and your flight is leaving really, really, really soon, like it's leaving the end of the 12th, early 13th, whatever it is, it would probably benefit you more to just do your tawaf al-ifada at the same, at that time where it will fulfill, inshallah ta'ala, the ritual of tawaf al-wada' as well. In that situation, you would not have to do 14, you would just do 7. Now I'm going to say this right now, and listen to me very carefully. There are a lot of mashayikh in Hajj. Some of them that are not actually mashayikh, and some of them that actually are. A lot of scholars that have different opinions. Please stick to one scholar that you're comfortable with. Don't come in my group and come to me and say, but Shaykh so-and-so said you have to do 14. That's his opinion. Alright? I'm not bound by his opinion. And don't come and corrupt the rest of the group and say, I heard another Shaykh say that our Hajj is totally invalid. Alright? Because in Mina in particular, all these groups get mixed up and people start listening to other mashayikh, so you start hearing all these lectures. So your fiqh might get a little out of whack, and you might start having a bunch of different opinions. Okay? Just follow a shaykh that you're comfortable with. Alright? If you're following me, if you're in my group, my opinion is that tawaf al-ifada suffices for tawaf al-wada' if it's delayed until the end. Alright? You would not have to do 14. The point is, it's the last thing you do in Mecca. You leave Mecca on ibadah. What that means is there's no shopping, and it says chit-chat afterwards, but talking is fine. Chit-chat means wasting your time and just in silly things. But talking is fine. No shopping at that point. You can still buy food, but you don't go buy souvenirs and things of that sort after that. Once you do the last tawaf in Mecca, that's it. You are closing your door of Hajj. If you're doing tawaf al-wada' separately, which is the majority of people, again, you're going to do tawaf al-wada' when you leave Mecca. So let's say that you did tawaf al-ifada on the 11th, but you're not leaving till the 14th, or you're not leaving till the 20th, or so on and so forth, and you do tawaf al-wada' last, all right? Then you're not going to do sa'i again. You're not going to redo your sa'i. What about voluntary tawafs? Voluntary tawafs, nafil tawaf can be done before tawaf al-wada'. But tawaf al-wada' is the last thing that you're going to do. If you're staying in Mecca until Muharram, you're still going to delay tawaf al-wada'. Alright, tawaf al-wada' is simply the last thing that you're going to do before you leave Mecca, inshallah ta'ala. Alright, we get to Medina now. Medina is not part of Hajj, but Medina is part of Hajj. In the sense that, ritually speaking, technically speaking, you can do Hajj altogether without going to Medina. But most people who go to Hajj, their favorite part of Hajj, if you ask them, is what? Medina. Alright? My express package, we do it in Medina. Right? We spend our days in Medina, we maximize our time in Medina because Medina, subhanAllah, is the most comfortable place from an ibadah perspective, from a spirituality perspective. It is the most fulfilling place in the world, subhanAllah. It's, you really, really enjoy yourself. It's the best preparation for Hajj. Alright? Now, when you go to Medina, you make the intention to pray in the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ. Rasulullah ﷺ says that between my house and my minbar is a garden from the gardens of paradise. That's called a rawda. Alright? The scholars differ. If the Prophet ﷺ meant that place between his grave and his pulpit, which is marked off by green carpet, you'll see it there. They have sisters' times, they have brothers' times, okay? And it's really crowded at that time. The scholars differ if that means it's actually physically a place of Jannah, or it's because it's the place the Prophet ﷺ used to give halaqas. And the Prophet ﷺ says that majalis al-ilm wa dhikr, that the circles of knowledge and remembrance are gardens from the gardens of paradise. Alright? So the point is though, it's a blessed place. It's the place the Prophet ﷺ used to give his halaqas. It is a place to go, inshallah ta'ala. If you can pray 2 rak'ahs, if you can spend a little bit of time there, that's fine. It's very difficult in the time of Hajj, but that's something you can do over there. Appoint 1 day for the marketplace. Why do I say that? Many people waste their entire Medina experience in the souk, in the marketplace, shopping. Clothes are cheap there, all that stuff is cheap, but it's not worth sacrificing your moments of spirituality. Go shop, buy your abayas, buy your hijabs, buy your thobes, do all that kind of stuff, alright? I do all my thobe shopping there too, it's okay, alright? But just don't make it like your Medina experience, all about shopping. Allocate a day or two, whatever it is, but don't spend your entire time shopping. Try to catch the janazas. This is particularly for the brothers. Now, janazah salah, the brothers and the sisters pray it, but actually going with the bodies to bury them, in Medina you can do this, not in Mecca. If you pray on the left gates of the masjid, on the left side of the masjid, particularly Bab Bilal, the door of Bilal radiallahu ta'ala anhu, if you pray there after Salat al-Janazah and you head, so here's the entrance to the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ is here. Here's where the Imam prays, okay? Here's Bab Bilal, here's the gate of Bilal. If you pray here or somewhere on the left, where the Imam is right here, because the body is with the Imam, right when they finish praying Janazah, they take the body, they exit here, and they go to the Baqi'. And the Baqi' is on the left side of the masjid. The graveyard's on the left side of the masjid. So if you're coming out this way, you can catch them with the body, and you can go with them to bury the body, and it is an incredible experience. It really, really, really is. So go there inshallah ta'ala with that intention if you can, to try to catch the janazas, to try to go with them inshallah ta'ala. Obviously visiting the grave of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's a very emotional experience. Unfortunately it's ruined by cameras. Say assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah. Say assalamu alayka to Abu Bakr and to Omar, and move on. You're not going to make dua to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you'll make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you'll make salawat on the Prophet ﷺ and so on and so forth. You don't do anything in front of the grave. The Prophet ﷺ said, don't make my grave a Eid. He said, send salawat upon me wherever you are, it will reach me. What did the Prophet ﷺ mean by that? You saying, Allahumma salli wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad here in Dallas is the exact same thing as saying, Allahumma salli wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad in Medina. You understand? Because it reaches him regardless. So, you simply say, Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You can make dua for the Prophet ﷺ. You obviously make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't have to carry a list and say, if someone says, send my salam to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you don't have to carry a list and say, Omar sent salam to you, Farouk sent salam to you. I met this guy at the masjid at Eid and he said salam. No, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the salam reaches him wherever you are. So tell people to send salam upon him, wherever they may be. The sunnah as well, lastly, is to do wudu in Medina and to go to Masjid Quba and to offer 2 rak'ahs. That is for men and women, and it equals the reward of Umrah. So Masjid Quba, which is the first masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, you will pray, you'll make wudu, you'll go to Masjid Quba, you'll pray 2 rak'ahs, and then visiting the site of Uhud, the Battle of Uhud, is also a sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And particularly visiting the shuhada, visiting the martyrs of Uhud. So that's something that any package should include, a visit to Quba and a visit to Uhud inshallah ta'ala. Don't waste your time too much with all the other stuff, because the main priority in Medina is to pray in the masjid and to, again, just take it in being in the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ and so on and so forth. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept Hajj from all of us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to complete a Hajj that is mabrur, a Hajj that is complete. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us for our shortcomings. And may Allah not allow our sins to take away the barakah of this experience. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not allow our egos or ourselves or the shayateen to overcome us to where we will ruin our Hajj by complaining or showing ingratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow it to be a life-changing experience, an experience from which we return completely like newborn babies, where we completely change our lives in accordance with that which is pleasing to Him. Allahumma ameen.